Hello and welcome to the One About Podcast, the show where we dive into our useless and never insightful thoughts on a different topic each week. This week we're discussing our experiences through the gaming landscape. This is the one about consoles versus PC. I'm your host, Dean. I also go by EndlessCola in places around the internet, and this week I am joined, as usual, by PC Master Race Jordan and by the League legend himself, John. How you guys doing this week?
Good, doing good. Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
Everything copacetic in your world? Nothing to complain about?
Oh God, we're not gonna start there. Oh Jesus
Plenty to
Christ.
complain about, but
Yeah.
No, you know what? I take that back. Let's not worry about that.
yeah,
So much.
I'm just gonna sit here enjoying my Dunkin' Donuts coffee, which is delicious, Jordan.
God, C
Keeping me
tier.
awake at this early time of the day. Speaking of which, it's like mad early for John, but he's
Yeah,
he's always awake at like 3 o'clock in the morning anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a true statement, and that was before. Like that's always been that way. It's even before the baby.
Yeah.
like your day starts that early.
Yeah, I wake up at 5, regardless of what day it is, weekend or whatever, and I'm just up.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes I'll wake up and it'll be morning here, and I text him something that I either want to ask him or I'm just thinking about or whatever, and he'll respond. I'm like, wait, why are you awake? I expect you to see this like 3 hours from now. So, what are you guys entertaining yourself with this week?
I really haven't played that much video games this week. I've played some Rocket League, but mostly working. Unfortunately, after this podcast, I'm gonna jump right into Crosscode and spend the rest of my day playing that because I eagerly want to beat that game.
So, you've suggested this to me before, and I kind of looked at it, and then I asked you what it is, and you described it as a shooty, platformy RPG,
Very
and
descriptive.
then yeah, and then went on to say, I don't know what genre it is.
I love all of those adjectives.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's an RPG, but
Okay.
it's it's an RPG set in an MMO world, but it's about an MMO. It's kind of meta in that way, and it's what's the end like dot hack kind of. You're trying to figure out who your character doesn't like lost her memories, and she's only like alive in the game, and
It's an
and
isekai?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that just straight up says, like, isekai to me. That's what it screams.
kind of the whole point of the game is you're trying to get her memories back and figure out who she was in the real world because everyone kind of like jacks into the game and they play it like dot hack, like dot hack. They had something that they put over their head and they just transported their entire being into the game, and they were self-actualized there, and they had all the same, like they can feel things, and they could just it was like indistinguishable between reality and the game. This is similar, except the whole story is about you're trying to find out who she is, and you learn more about the world. And I won't spoil it much more. I won't spoil much more than that, but it's just fun. It's cool, and they
Bro,
have
if
really
you
they have really
consider
great.
that a spoiler, we need to reevaluate our
Yeah,
our thoughts because I'm gonna spoil the hell out of things for you randomly if that's what you consider a spoiler. That was barely even a
No, no, no.
synopsis.
I said I don't want to spoil.
okay.
I may have misspoke, but I don't want. I don't want to spoil the game any further than that because
How long is it, do you think?
so it's kind of a collectathon at certain points. So there are different biomes are like different levels, right?
Hmm.
And every kind of biome has their own enemies and their own flora, and you have to go and like find them all and collect the pieces from them to craft different things for yourself, which is totally optional. You don't have to do that. You can just buy it all. But if you have a bunch of extra mats, you can just craft your armor or craft potions and buffs, stuff like that. But there's also like just a oh, you if you find this herb or this bush 10 times, then you've learned it, quote unquote, or I forgot the term for it. You've cataloged it, and then you know the percentage drop rates of everything involved. And the gameplay is so fun and fast that kind of cycling through the biomes and trying to find all the little things and all the little hidden areas, it's fun in itself. So I'm also kind of doing all those weird little extra stuff. I've probably spent about an extra 10 hours in the game just doing that and trying to do all the side quests, all the cataloging stuff, just kind of a slow burn. But I'm like halfway through, maybe a little bit more.
Which, I mean, how long is that?
Well, I'm looking at it now. I'm at 39 hours. I thought it was a little bit more than that. 39 hours.
Holy
I
39
feel
hours and you're halfway?
I feel halfway through.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't
What's
exactly know, but I feel halfway through.
How long to beat Crosscode?
Eh,
I'm sure like it's a speed
31 hours.
it's
eh.
it's a speedrunner's game. Like you can definitely like there's min maxing in it. There's a lot of things that you can do to just kind of burn through it and and really not spend 39 hours like I have halfway through.
Apparently, if you want to be a full completionist about it, it's about 79 hours. So
Hey, yeah.
That's
it
I
sounds
cool.
like you're somewhere in there.
I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm not going for full completionist. 'Cause I seldom ever do. Like, there's very few instances in my life where I've been like, I gotta 100% this game, but I'll know when I feel accomplished enough, and
It's like, oh, I can put it to bed. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
yeah,
like with Breath of the Wild. Like I'm literally going through and upgrading all the armor sets to max before I even go to fight Ganon, and then I still have the DLC content to get through.
you
Dude,
don't need it.
my, my playthrough of Breath of the Wild was gross. I had to do everything. The only thing I didn't do was the Korok seeds because
that's
no.
that's sadistic.
No, my first playthrough, I actually did that. I did all the Korok seeds.
Oh my god. Did you
Uh,
enjoy that gigantic pile of
no, that's
gold?
probably one of the very few times that I was just like I felt the developers were giving me a huge middle finger.
They kind of did too. Like
Yeah.
if you listen to their interviews about the subject, it really was kind of like, well, we got to give them something.
I mean, to be fair, while you're getting all the Korok seeds, you use them to upgrade how much you can carry, which is the best thing.
Only for so long though. After a while,
True.
they stopped giving you that.
Yeah. God. I want to be able to carry all the swords, like all the Lionel swords. I still have yet to use any of my Lionel weapons that I got from the White Lionels, dude. Those things are just too good to
Never know
waste.
when you might need them, right?
It's hilarious because like that game, everybody's big complaint is the way that your weapons break. But I feel like after a couple of hours into that game, I had so many weapons that was
Yep.
a complete non-issue for me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
in the Gerudo Desert, there's like freaking camps of monsters. Like you legit mark that. It's like I need like 7 royal broadswords. Let's go to this camp and fuck up all these Lizalfos and get 70 of them. That's basically what it's like in there. That's why like people complaining about it when they first start playing, and it's like just wait. You're not gonna have enough room to carry all the weapons you want.
Personally, for me, I felt like that mechanic added a lot to that game.
Oh yeah.
I understand why it annoys some people, but like, I don't know. I just felt like it really makes it more difficult in the beginning, which is something that Zelda is not typically ever, which is
Mhm.
difficult. And then as you go along, you have this really tangible sense of progression.
Oh, 100%. Especially like when you know the red moon phase where basically it's the in-game's respawn timer.
Dude,
Um,
you know how many hours it took me to figure out what that even did?
The blood moon rises. What is
it,
going on?
it literally tells you in the cutscene, like unless you skip the cutscene every single time, which knowing you, you probably did.
I
Like
did not.
it
I did
tells
not.
you, dude. It literally
But,
shows them like coming back to life.
but like that doesn't. So let me pull it up. You keep going. I'm just gonna pull it up really quick.
Yeah, but so doing that red moon phase, I thought that was a really cool and neat gimmick, especially in an open world game. I was like, I mean, it's open world, but there's finite space, and like, what happens? Like, say you get all the weapons, and like you broke them all, and then at the dead of night, fucking creepy ass red moon phase happens, and I'm freaking out, and I was like, oh, respawn timer. That's actually pretty awesome.
So what it actually says
Mm-hmm.
is, by its glow, the aimless spirits of monsters slain in the name of light return to flesh.
Okay.
So yeah, I did read that. First of all, I didn't even know you can skip it. That would have been nice to know. But regardless, I read this like 100 times. So I'm like, I don't see anything around me anywhere. I don't know what it's even talking about. And then after a while, I was like, oh, you know what probably happened? It probably brought what I killed back to life. And then went back and found out that, yeah, like everything just comes back to life.
I found out quickly because I rested at a campfire that I just cleared out from a bunch of moblins and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blood moon came then, and then the gameplay was returned to me, and then I was surrounded. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like just
that's the worst.
from reading it and like watching that cutscene, I thought it was saying that like new bad monsters were showing up during the blood moon or something. Like I had to be especially careful right now. But it's actually just telling you that they're respawning, which like it also says be please be careful. But like of what? You didn't tell me to be careful before, and it's no different than when I started.
Yeah, it would be a cool gimmick if they made it to where that was a respawn timer, and also like say during that time frame, like maybe like 6 hours of that night, like the monsters are stronger.
Ooh, yeah.
That would have been cool. But one thing I did notice, and I don't know if this goes off the in-game timer or your just natural progression through the game, but every time that red moon cycle comes up, it looks at whatever metric for your progression in the game and basically like, okay, he's this far ahead. So when we respawn these monsters, instead of like the red moblins, like the ones that are really like weak, the weakest ones, they go up to like green, and then they go up to blue, and then they go up
What?
to white. Yeah.
I did not know it did that.
Yeah,
If you notice
wow.
that, if you like, I noticed that because like when you go back to the Great Plateau and like there's that one skull place, you go there and then there's a random white mob goblin there that was just never there before. Because if you think about it, if there was a white one there in the beginning, you would never get through that area. Like you would die. You'd break
Yeah.
all of your weapons trying to kill that thing.
Can I just point out how much I love that you don't know the proper names for like anything in this game?
That's fine. That's
Just
totally fine.
re-
But
it's
you
just
know what
really
I'm
makes me
talking
happy.
about. You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about.
No, yeah, I do. Like, I don't feel any need to correct you about any of it. I just enjoy listening to you like try to remember what they're actually called.
It's like because oh yeah, one of them's Moblins, which is the big ugly ones with the one horns. Then the Bobopkins. Is that that's the regular
Goblin?
Bokoblins?
Buckhoblins.
Bokoblins. That's it. And then there's one other one.
Did you say moblins already?
Yeah, Moblins, the ones with the big horn and like you get the guts and stuff like
Well,
that.
there's the
Which one are you trying to remember?
he's trying to remember the lizard ones.
No, the Lizalfos.
Okay, all right.
So that's the only ones. Those are the only ones.
I can't remember
Bokoblins,
what mobs are in Breath of the
Lizalfos,
Wild, to be
Moblin.
honest. Let's see.
Those are the
There
three
are
main ones.
Bokoblins, Lizalfos, Moblins, Wizrobes,
Ah, Wizrobes.
Bro, those things are annoying as hell.
Lionels, Choo-Choos,
Keese,
Keese, there are
yeah.
Keese, Octoroks,
Maduga.
and that might be it.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
there's also oh god, what are they called?
Guardians.
Guardian. Oh well, yeah, there are
Yeah.
Guardians. That's not what I'm trying to think of.
Horox. Oh, Hinox.
Yeah.
Yes,
The big
yes,
ogre thing where you get its toenail.
that's
Yes. Hinox and also the skeleton version of that, which I can't remember.
it. Is there a? Oh,
Yes,
the
the
Stalnox.
skeleton
Yeah,
version, yeah.
there's Stalnox in there. That's right. And there's some cool ass bosses in that game too.
And there-
Anyway,
Yeah, I could talk for.
also
Also,
the talus. That's stone taluses.
Oh,
something
yeah,
that
yeah.
something that is divisive that people either like or hate, the climbing mechanic when it rains.
Yeah.
Rain is the worst enemy in that game.
Yeah.
Hell with rain.
Bane
I-
of my existence.
Yeah, I actually love the mechanic because it forced me if it was raining in a certain area, it forced me, okay, I can't just climb in a straight line. I gotta, go around. And I found a lot of really awesome stuff that way. I liked it a lot.
You know what I really liked when it was raining? Getting into combat. Because you could take out like a
Ooh.
steel sword, wait for the lightning to come down like it's going to strike you, throw it at the enemy's feet, and have it hit them instead.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff, like, you can flex your imaginative muscle in that game
Mm-hmm.
more than any other that I've played thus far.
I would venture to say that that's probably the most freedom in any video game that's ever been made.
Yeah, like,
Like,
have you
if you
gone
can
on?
imagine it, it probably works.
Yeah, have you gone on and seen the videos of people just trying out the physics of that world? Like the whole setting up the octo balloons to float on a raft, or to use the magnesis rune to fly on a cart.
Yeah.
Like, they've done some crazy stuff, or like use the kinetic rune, the time stop kinetic rune, get on a boulder and ride that bad boy.
Yeah, there's some interesting glitches between quotes that you can do with those physics as well.
The worst part is, like, I don't. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Glitch. Okay, because like most of that stuff seems like it's a glitch, but it's like, no, that's kind of intended.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely not intended, but I don't know that I would call them glitches per se either.
Yeah.
It's just like weird manipulations of the physics that cause things to happen that the developers didn't really intend. So, is that all you've been into recently? You just getting really stuck into Breath of the Wild?
No, actually, I bought me a PS2 a while ago, and I'm like actually going through my old catalog of
Oh,
games and playing that. That's why I had the problem of trying to find a decent fucking D-pad controller.
yeah.
It's it's like when I was 13 all over again, and I actually got an Xbox for probably like a month, and
Yeah.
I could not play Street Fighter on it because the D-pad sucked. Like, I even got a specific third-party controller, hoping the D-pad would be good, and it was awful. And I just like, okay, I'm done with Xbox. I can never play this at all.
I think most people ended up being done with Xbox too, but
Yeah, but like my reason was solely because I could not play fighting games, which is my bread and butter and my like best, like most beloved game genre, on an Xbox to the level that I thought it was at. And I'm not going to relearn muscle memory for this fucking shit all over again. I'm just going to go back to the PS. That's what I did.
that's why you just get a fight stick and learn how to do that.
I mean, I got a fight stick.
I
Try
know
to
you
learn how to do it.
I know you
Yeah,
have at least one because I
yeah,
gave you.
yeah, yeah. No, but I bought the Street Fighter V one that everybody was clamoring for when it first came out,
Uh,
which was the one that was like back ordered and everybody wanted one. I got that one, and I've been using it to play Tekken more than anything.
mm.
Oh man, Tekken 7 is like, it's what all fighting games should strive to be.
I
Like,
don't know, man. My thing with Tekken is like sometimes I just like the simplicity of a 2D plain fighting game like Street Fighter, you know? Like
I
I don't dislike Tekken, but like I also really enjoy the simplicity of Street Fighter.
you're talking about the added third dimension, like if you're to sidestep and stuff like that, right?
Correct.
I understand that. I get it. But like honestly, sidestepping isn't used by just normal players. Like casual players who play Tekken usually don't sidestep. That's only for like pros and shit like that. Um, but I will say this, like the reason Tekken for me is so popular with a lot of people, even people who've never played it before, you can legit button mash and have a good time. You
My
don't.
man Eddie Gordo.
Oh my god, my dad loves that character, plays that character. I got good because I had to beat my dad, who would just button mash the kick buttons, and Eddie Gordo would just do insane shit. Like,
Eddie Gordo is the best if you don't know how to play.
oh my god, like I literally, like when I was beating up people playing Tekken at my house, I was like, all right, I'll show you how to like seem like you're playing well. Pick this character and just spam the kick buttons. No, no, and then they just play them and they're like, oh, I'm kicking your ass. Oh, I'm the best. Right. it's
Or
the worst, dude.
if you want to play Street Fighter, all you gotta do is Shoryuken all the time.
No, and the worst. See, like I like Street Fighter because, like, to get good at that game, you need to know how to link shit together and be able to call on a specific move with like an 80% accuracy if you want to like play like even good casually. Like
Sure about that?
I'm dead serious about that. Like you and I have gone back and forth. No.
Fighter 4, you had a bit of trouble with my Ken, dude.
Okay, first of all, I didn't have any trouble with your Ken when I picked Sagat. That's
So angry.
100%. No, I'm angry because you picked fucking Dan, who has a goddamn hitbox glitch
Dude, Dan
coded
is
in
the
the
best.
game. No,
Dan Big.
no. All right, all right. All bullshit aside, admit to me 100% that if I timed it right, I always hit you with the Sagat combo anytime you jumped in or anytime you had like a frame where you couldn't block.
I mean, I guess that's true, but like, what kind of a comment is that? If I
Okay.
timed it right, well, if I timed it right, I could do
No,
whatever.
no, 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 no. Meaning that there's basically no time with any other character that I ever miss my Sagat combo, right? Yet when you pick Dan in the same instances where I basically have 100% accuracy at hitting that combo, it misses. That's that's bullshit.
I mean, it's almost like Dan has a slightly different hitbox, man. I don't.
Fuck you. Fuck you, fuck Dan, and fuck Cody. Cody too. Cody's a piece of shit.
Oh my god, dude! Brandon destroyed you with Cody every time.
Fucking oh yeah, I'm just gonna pick up a random pebble and make it to where you can never reach me. It's so stupid.
Can we at least all agree that Huarong is the best Tekken character?
Um yeah. Yeah. He like especially like what they added to in Tekken 7, like they could have rehashed his whole move list and like he would have been fine. No, they made it to where it was even more robust and flexible. And he's just you don't know which way he's coming from. He's just so good. He's such a good character design.
Is 7 still the new one?
7 is still the new one. It was released in 2015 exclusively in Japan, where they did most of their like testing from the Japanese doing like extensive tournaments with it, and then it got released I think in the US a year later.
Holy shit, dude! It's only $10 right now.
What's their release cadence for Tekken? Is it like every 4 years is a new one?
No, they legit release it after. I'm not even gonna say 4 years. Like they don't really have a cadence. Like back in like PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, it would be like I think every 2 years. And then when they got to like Tekken 5 and 6, like there was a lot of complaints from the community, like basically like this game isn't good, the net code sucks, like it's not as good as it should be. So they did like a complete overhaul for 7 where they used a different engine. They added a whole bunch of different aspects to the fighting game, like rage arts, which is basically like supers, which have never been in Tekken before. Cinematic exchanges where it slows down when you both press a button at the same time and your characters are attacking at the same time. And then also like a rage meter to where if you're at low health, you do a certain percentage more damage. Like a lot of stuff that they added to the game that just made the game so much better. But to answer your previous question, like there wasn't a real like release cycle for Tekken. They just made it like when they felt the game was good, and then they released it. Because usually they do a lot of internal beta testing in Japanese arcades.
Like, so I thought I would have to look it up and to see that, even though my boy clearly had it on lockdown and knew what he was talking about. But I will say that that answer kind of negates everything that came out after between like 2008 and 2015, and there was like 9 games that came out during that time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would say, like, to answer your question, they come out with a Tekken game every 1 to 3 years.
Hmm.
looking at this. Numbered Tekkens, it was 2 years up until six when they took like an 8 year break. But even in that time, they came out with Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Tekken Revolution, Tekken Hybrid, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, if you want to count that, even though they canceled Tekken Cross Street Fighter because they hate us.
Yep.
Uh, and even after Tekken 7, they've come out with Pokken Tournament, which is just a spin off of Tekken. Uh,
I played Pokken. Did you play Pokken Tournament?
yeah, dude, I have it on Wii U and Switch.
Yeah, I actually liked that game. Like, it was actually fun.
It's pretty dope, but like as with all things Nintendo, their online is total garbage. So it's
It's straight hot dog shit.
yeah,
Mm.
it's real bad.
It's really bad. But like that 8 year gap where they put like time and effort in the development of Tekken 7 like really paid off.
So I hear, man. So I hear. Yeah, like I don't have anything like that right now. Like I'm just trying to play through a bunch of single player stuff that I've missed out on over time. So I feel like I need a game like Tekken or Street Fighter or hell, even like you know what I really want that like seems like it's on the horizon, but they haven't officially announced or said anything of any note of is that Modern Warfare 2 remastered.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
released the campaign. Who wants the campaign? Give me the
Nobody.
multiplayer. You know that's what
Nobody
we
wants
want.
the campaign.
Like
Nobody wants the campaign.
even if you're one of those dudes who loved the campaign of Modern Warfare 2 and it was fine back in the day. Like the whole no Russian thing got more people to play it than would have otherwise. But like, come on, dude. You know that we want the multiplayer. You gave us COD 4 remastered multiplayer. Why not Modern Warfare 2 You know why? You know why I think they didn't do it? Is because if they release that, they know that whatever other game they release that's new, nobody's playing that shit. Like,
Yep.
they're going to be all over Modern Warfare 2 remastered.
Dude, didn't we were all over the COD 4 remaster like for like a good like month, right?
Yeah, I actually would still love to play some more of that, but like,
Damn straight.
They need to slow their releases, man. Like it's one every year, isn't it?
it's been one every year for the last like 10 years, dude.
They need to slow down. Like the Modern Warfare, the one from last year, that's the remake of 4, right? Or the remaster of 4?
No, so Modern Warfare is like a reboot of the Modern Warfare sub series of Call of Duty.
Okay. And that one has people love that one, right? Like that one's widely popular. It's people seem to really like that one. Just stick
I
with
mean,
that one for a
they
year or
like
two.
it as much as people like all of the Call of Duties that come out. Like Call of Duty is such an unbelievable juggernaut that they could release anything and people would be all over it.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. Call of Duty 1 in 2003, 2 in 2005, 3 in 2006, and it all went downhill. 4 in 2007, World at War 2008, Modern Warfare 2 in 2009, Black Ops 2010, Modern Warfare 3 in 2011, Black Ops 2 in 2012, Ghosts in 2013, Advanced Warfare in 2014, Black Ops 3 in 2015, Infinite Warfare in 2016, World War 2 in 2017, Black
Oh,
Ops 4 in 2018, Modern Warfare in 2019. So for the last 15 years, there's been a new game every single year.
no. Mm-mm.
And they released Modern Warfare Remastered, which was a full game in itself. So technically 16 games in
It's
those
it's
15
it's
years.
it's the Madden of shooters.
Yeah.
But in their defense, they sell so many copies that like they have no reason to stop.
Yeah, basically like with Pokemon games, right? It's
I would say even Pokemon is more reserved. Like they're so hardcore about this that they have tapped what is it? One, two, three, four, at least four different studios who do nothing but make Call of Duty. At least Pokemon is one studio.
you are correct there.
Although to be fair, I think that Game Freak has like multiple studios that do different things for different games, but it doesn't matter. The point is like they have four studios who do absolutely nothing but make Call of Duty. And in their defense, because they have four studios doing it, it's not like the one studio is cranking out a new game every single year like Madden or 2K. They
Mhm.
have 2-3 years to make every single game, and then the other studios just go with their game on the rotational years. So
Oh,
that's why their quality stays high enough that it doesn't matter for them.
yeah. Okay, I get that.
That said, dude, I haven't played a Call of Duty game since Black Ops 3. So that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And although I will play World War II this month since they gave it away for free on PlayStation Plus.
You're just gonna get into that.
Why not? It's
You're right.
the last time they released a World War II game was World at War in 2008. And that was dude, that was like the last like significant World War II game at that.
You are correct.
There was probably some other ones, but not many.
Yeah,
So,
I think the last World War II first-person shooter I played was Day of Defeat, which was really good and fun to play.
yeah, I missed that one, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Like the first-person shooters that I actually miss that hold a special place in my heart is Killzone
Mm,
and SOCOM.
some good
I,
choices.
I'm really actually depressed that Killzone lost the FPS wars, but it's their own fault.
Killzone like was never really for me though. Like I totally get the appeal of it. I actually bought the trilogy re-release on PS3, but yeah, it was never really for me. I also need to get the one on Vita.
Yeah,
That's supposed to be really damn good.
that's what I mean. Like Killzone, like gameplay wise, like was better than Call of Duty and Halo. The premise was way better, in my opinion, and the melee attacks were different and varied. Like you'd slash a guy's throat, break his neck, like a whole bunch of different stuff. Like there was a lot of intricacies that made it like edge out the competition, in my opinion. It's just they fucked up on the most crucial and essential part of an FPS game was the multiplayer. Like legit, the multiplayer, their servers were crap on release. You could only play up to two people on one console up until I think PS PS3 too. Like they just messed up on the multiplayer aspect of that game wholeheartedly, and that's why they lost the FPS wars.
Well, you might get another one. I honestly, I don't think they're done with Killzone. I think it's just kind of gone into hibernation for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem that you're going to run into if you want more Killzone is that game is made by Gorilla, and actually the Vita one was made by Gorilla Cambridge, but they closed that studio.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Gorilla though is now working on Horizon Zero Dawn, so
Of course. So yeah, that's always taking a back burner. That's taking a
yeah,
back.
like them making another Killzone game is not super likely, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a new Killzone game as a launch title for PS5.
If there was, I would lose my shit and probably fuck a hole in a wall.
Okay.
I'm saying I haven't played a good FPS other than when we like started playing Call of Duty the remaster. Like I haven't played a good FPS in a long time that I just thoroughly enjoyed. Where I was like, I need to go home and play this. Like even without my friends online, like if I can go and play online by myself and enjoy myself, that's when I know I have a good FPS, and that was with Killzone and SOCOM. Like
So what you're saying is we all need to get Call of Duty World War II on PS4 since Jordan buckled and finally got one and just play it.
I
Nope.
might do that. I might do that. Yeah.
I'm just
That's
not a
not a
shooter
bad idea.
guy.
I.
I
That's
mean,
what I mean.
neither am I really anymore, but since you refuse to play Minecraft Dungeons with me.
Can we not find something else besides Minecraft Dungeons, please?
Yeah, I just suggested World War II.
Ugh. The only multiplayer game that I even play is like Rocket League, and I have like 500 hours in Rocket League.
Well,
Oh my
maybe we need to
god.
change that because nobody in America plays soccer, bruh.
I don't know, man. Like there's consistently at least 300 to 400,000 people on. Like, I don't have any problems queuing or any
That means
issues.
that
No,
means
Rocket
nothing.
League is a lit game though. Like I
Eh,
actually really like Rocket League.
it's fun to watch, like to play. For me, like it's iffy. It's a toss up.
The
I have to
problem
be in
is
the
that
mood.
I think
like
it's got a high learning curve. Is the
it
problem.
does, it does. It really took me it took me almost 100 hours to really understand why I love the game and then get into it and be competitive with it. But that's a lot to ask for any game, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of like that. Like when I decided to do like competitive battling in Pokemon Sword and Shield for the first time ever in my life. It
Hmm.
was actually one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in a video game, to see the fruits of your labors just like laid before you. Although I still couldn't get it a master though. That shit's tough because it was more because of the Pokemon that I wanted to play with
Yeah.
weren't like meta and like the best, but I still had a fucking fun time. Like legit up at 3 a.m. in the morning, like just in my drawers and just yelling at the TV and just walking around pumping up my chest. I was like, hell yeah, you weren't ready for that Haxorus, were you?
Yeah, man. I feel like I need something like that in my gaming life, but also I don't know how I would have time to do it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of don't. But I will say, having finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, I thought I was gonna go for the platinum trophy in that game, and no,
No,
no, I will not.
that's just a no no, just automatic no.
Uh, yeah, no. I think that'll be its own episode next week. But
Bring it
suffice it to
on.
say, for now,
Bring it on.
no, that ain't happening.
That damn Kingdom Hearts 4 final chapter.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Spoilers, bruh.
That's not spoilers. It's just I'm just describing the the whatever happened that last chapter.
I'm just describing what happened in the last chapter. It's not a spoiler.
Yep,
The
yep, you are
feeling of
correct.
it.
But yeah, like I have been putting a bunch of hours into Assassin's Creed Unity, which is another one of those franchises that just like can't stop coming out.
Yeah.
But I played every game in the franchise except Unity and Odyssey, which is the most recent one. So I'm like, if I can beat Unity and Odyssey before the new one comes out, maybe I can have that as like my PS5 launch title, you know? So I'm trying to work on that. But dude, it's so janky, dude.
Why is it janky? I need context.
So character models will just vanish.
Uh huh.
Like NPCs, the engine can't really handle how many NPCs they put in the streets in this game because it's set during like the French Revolution, so there's just like hundreds of people in the streets setting fires and rioting and all this shit all the time. And sometimes you'll just see a character model fly into the air, just totally randomly. Oh, or you'll be in combat and you're like, all right, he's on the ground, just stab him. End the fight, kill him now, just stab him. No, I want to be a gentleman. Let him get up and stab me first.
Oh god.
No, he's 2 levels higher than you. That'll kill you. Don't do that. No, I'm going to be a gentleman. In fact, I'm going to put my sword away. This fight's over. No, it's not. And then he'll stab you. And he's like, oh shit, I guess I still have to fight. And take his sword back out and try and keep going.
Good lord.
Or like back then, they leaned heavily into this parry mechanic, which is kind of like if you remember from the Arkham series of games, it's kind of like that, except not quite as fluid and easy.
Uh-huh.
So you'll go to parry, and he just kind of flails his sword around, which is somehow a parry move, and he'll just like not parry them. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like,
Oh,
maybe just parry him a little. No, no. Oh, we're dead.
we're just gonna take that. We're just gonna take that on the nose. Excellent.
Or my personal favorite is in combat in that game. If you get into combat with more than, I would say, 3 enemies, you're probably going to die because when the enemies don't have anything to do because they can't directly engage in combat with you because there's too many guys trying to swing their sword at you at once, they go, all right, but I still want to do something. So let me pull out my pistol and just shoot you in the face.
Nice.
And there's nothing you can do to block that. You have to hit them to disrupt their shot, or you're going to get shot.
Options. Options.
And it hurts a lot. So yeah, like the whole game is pretty jank, but it really scratches this like OCD itch that I have to see like 3,000 icons on the screen that I have to collect and just go around the city of Paris and grab this chest or grab that chest or grab this cockade or whatever. There's all kinds of mission. I will say this. Like if you just open the map for Unity and see everything on the map, I imagine that there are some players out there just like, nope, and close the game. Like there's so many icons on the map that it's very difficult to even see what you want to see. They block out the buildings beneath them. There's so many icons.
Nice.
It's the most ridiculously dense map I've ever seen in my entire life. But all that being said, like I've been forged in fire on Assassin's Creed, having played since the first game, so this kind of jank doesn't bother me that much with this franchise specifically because I'm used to it. It's just rough to go back to dealing with that after playing more modern games. But yeah, that's really all I'm playing right now. Oh, I did though. I watched Ford versus Ferrari. Have you guys seen this movie?
Yes. Really good. Better than I thought it was going to be.
So it's definitely better than I thought it would be, but it was also a different movie than I thought it was going to be.
This
like
is true.
like when I heard the name Ford versus Ferrari, I wasn't imagining the movie that it ended up being, but I think that works to its benefit.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is a movie about racing." All right. Also, did you like feel bad for oh shit, now I can't remember his name.
Christian Bale,
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
character.
Yeah,
Hell
what
yeah,
happened
dude.
to him at the end?
Yeah, that sucks. Like,
Dude, apparently, because I was reading about it afterward, apparently, like that accident forced Ford to put a bunch of reinforcement and safety precautions into that car because they continued to race it anyway.
mm-hmm,
But they put like a roll cage and things like that into it for when they were racing with it.
mm-hmm,
And when they went to the Le Mans that year with it, Mario Andretti was one of the guys racing that car for them.
mm-hmm.
He actually rolled over in an accident that would have killed him in the same way that it killed that guy, had it not been for the roll cage and stuff that they put into it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's. I mean, there, at least something good came of that accident, but still, like that that sucks. Like one, like how he got screwed out at the first Le Mans that he actually raced at. He got screwed out of victory, and two, like okay, he knows he can win it. He knows he's an amazing driver. He's ready to make a better car than there was before, and then fucking dies.
Yep. I mean, this is the man who got into a car accident where the car exploded and he walked away without a scratch.
Yeah,
And yet, he couldn't make it out of this one. Like,
yeah.
that sucks, dude.
It super sucks, man. Like, because I actually fell in love with his character, even though he was an asshole
Like, the whole time to everybody.
to everybody. Like, even to to his wife a little bit. But
Like, I liked his character so much that I wasn't even going to hold it against him that he called Coke fizzy pop.
yeah, it's because wait, no, that's a societal, that's a cultural thing. Like, I forgot where it is, but like they literally call it fizzy pop still.
Yeah, he's a British person in real life.
God,
Uh,
I hate the way that they talk sometimes.
but yeah, like Jordan, if you haven't seen that movie, you should watch it, man. It's a good like I think it's an hour and a half, maybe it's 2 hours, but it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it, especially for all the trials and tribulation and the shit that they had to go through, like the red tape they had to fight through to get to that.
Yeah, not something that I would go out of my way to see because I'm not really a car guy. I don't really care about any of that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
I mean, a good movie is a good movie.
Yeah, like neither am I, but it's that good.
Something that I did want to see last year that I never got the opportunity to see, which I can see it now. I'm sure I can find it somewhere. Is 1917. That looked really cool.
1917.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a World War I movie.
the one where he's basically running to like warn his brother's platoon about an impending like ambush,
That's the one that like they praise the one continuous shot where it's like a 5 minute or whatever shot.
where he's running through the like a live
Oh,
battlefield.
Yeah,
I wasn't. I honestly do not go out of my way to see those type of movies most of the time. Like the only time I see those movies is usually with my dad.
I don't
like
either. Like I don't go out of my way to see war movies.
the only time that I watch war movies like that is if it's from a director that like I really enjoy already, like
This just looked.
Tarantino or Spielberg or somebody like that makes a war movie. I'm like, yeah, I mean,
I'll
I'm
hop
in
on
for that.
that.
I
Yeah.
mean, it just looked really stylized and it looked cool. Like I don't know. Like I like the aesthetics of the movie. I like how it was shot, so that's why it intrigued me. But I do not go out of my way to watch any war movies ever, unless it's like the old ones from like the 50s and 60s and 70s. I actually really love those movies.
Okay.
Like Hamburger Hill, Platoon, things like that. Platoon's not from the 70s, but I mean,
I know.
the ones.
I get what you're saying. I already got the ideal of what the movies that you watch,
Yeah,
those war movies in that era.
shut up, Jordan. I understand what you're saying.
No, I am agreeing with you. Like it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to put in words what you're trying to describe. Like you don't have the adjectives at hand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last war movie that I watched was Dunkirk, and man, that
I
movie
heard that was
super
great.
duper didn't do anything for me.
Did not do anything for you.
Not a thing. I got super bored like an hour
Yeah,
into that.
I did again. Did like I saw it. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is amazing!" Like super tense trailer, and I was like, "No, not gonna watch it. No, not
Yeah,
worth."
like I don't know, man. Like Christopher Nolan to me is kind of an overrated director. I think he has some really really good movies, and then a lot of movies I'm just kind of like,
Eh,
yeah, that was 2 hours of my life. I'm never getting back.
yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. Like, I did like the Batman movies, especially since he gave us Ledger's Joker,
Ooh, hot
which
take. I think the first one was the best one still.
the first one was the best one, but Heath Ledger's portrayal of Joker was probably the best to be remembered. And I honestly don't think his death had anything to do with like skewing the view of his
You're
performance.
categorically wrong about that. Like
Not,
even if you think that he's really really good in that role, which I think is debatable, I would still take Mark Hamill over him all day long. But even if you really love his Joker, the idea that his death had no effect on the praise that he got for that role is that I mean that's probably demonstrably false.
I
I'm not. I didn't say that it didn't have any effect. I'm saying that it's not the reason why it got so much praise. Like it's not the major reason.
Mm,
And
mm.
when I was talking about Joker, I'm talking about live action portrayal.
Yeah, I don't
Mark
think you.
Hamill,
Yeah.
yeah, Mark Hamill's Joker is the Joker.
Yes.
Period. No contest, no argument whatsoever from me or anybody with a brain cell. But live
Okay,
live action Joker, Heath Ledger's would be the best portrayal in my opinion.
I think I would agree with that,
Yeah.
but you have a really small pool to pull from on that
That
one.
is true. I mean,
It's
Jack Nicholson was just fun.
there's a no. That's not true. There's at least five or more different actors that played Joker in the last
Uh,
50 years. Like
yeah,
it's not a small pool. It's a sizable enough pool to say yeah he's definitely the best.
people born in the 80s, it's a small pool because we have Jack Nicholson from the original Batman one. Then there's the Adam West one, which I have no idea who that guy that played Joker. Then there's Jared Leto. There's Heath
Cesar
Ledger. Cesar Rivera. That's the guy from the Adam West one.
or Caesar Romero, whatever.
Yeah. There's one more. Oh yeah, Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker.
Which people love
Wait,
that one. People
you're
love.
forgetting like the one that I would expect you of all people to bring up. Also, Jared Leto.
Yeah, I did say Jared Leto.
Mhm.
I missed.
Um,
You're
which
missing the one other one that I can't believe you of all people didn't bring up.
oh my God, who's Joker? I'm pulling a blank. Oh, you're talking about the one from Gotham?
That's
Yeah,
right.
him.
I
Even
was
though
like, if you don't pull that one up, nobody will.
I understand. So my take on his portrayal of Joker, um, it was good. It was just too over the top for the platform that he was on.
Mm,
And the fact that they did a fake out and basically like, oh, Jerome Valeska isn't actually going to be the Joker of this Gotham. Like he's going to be an ideal. Like the Joker is not going to be in Gotham. Like they did a fake out publicly with that, and like even the creators did. Then they brought him back, and it's like, okay, he is the actual Joker for Gotham. And I was like, you kind of ruined it by doing that little fake out. Like
I
if you would have just stuck
yeah.
with him from the beginning, it would have been a million times better because he actually started off really well and he got the laugh down
Mm-hmm.
like superbly.
this is what I would say. Every single person who's played the Joker has gone for a very different Joker. None of them are trying to play like the same character. I mean, they're literally the same character, but you know what I mean? Like they're not all trying to do it the same way. And
True.
so from that perspective, they all have merit. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say that this is a race between the cinematic Joker portrayals, not like Adam West Batman or
Okay.
this clown, no pun intended, in Gotham or whatever.
Uh,
So really, from that perspective, you have what, four choices,
yeah.
uh, of which Jared Leto's probably the worst. But I don't know, man. Jack Nicholson is kind of not good. I don't know. We'll
You
just
didn't like
we'll
Jackie?
lump
You didn't like Jackie?
we'll just lump them together. Like if you ask me to give you my honest take on it, I would say Jack Nicholson and Jared Leto are probably on equal plane, but again, they're just doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
And Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix are probably also on equal plane, just doing it different.
Okay.
If
I,
you put a gun to my head and made me pick a favorite, I would probably say Joaquin Phoenix, but that's because Joaquin Phoenix is not doing a comic book villain. He's doing a
yeah.
real person who's
Yes.
very interesting and dynamic.
Yes, you actually feel very sad and sorry for him. Like he did that super well, and I would have to agree with you on that as a choice. But if you're talking about the comic book version of and like what you envision of the Joker in a cinematic standpoint, I would have to go with Heath Ledger because that would be more closer to what the Joker was in the comic books that I read and in the animated series and films that I watched
Dude,
religiously.
I'm going to keep it 100 with you. Like, if you ask me to which one of those four I think is closest to the comic books, I would actually say Jared Leto.
No.
Because like if you look at the comic books, very rarely is the Joker portrayed as this like serious conniving character. He's just like a force of complete chaos.
Yes. Okay.
And that's really what Jared Leto's character is. Now,
Mm,
is he accurate to the way Joker looks, the way he literally acts? No, not really, but none of them are really.
Yes.
I mean, I don't, I don't know. Like Joker, definitely he is conniving and he's calculated. He's a chaotic neutral. I wouldn't say he's an evil. I would say he's a chaotic neutral.
No,
Yes.
but that's my point. Like Heath Ledger's Joker is not that. He's
Oh, he's
very
very
calculated,
calculating. Yep.
very intelligent, very focused on what he's doing. He's not trying to do chaos. He's doing chaos for a very specific reason
Yeah,
for a very specific end goal.
he has a set goal in mind, and that's what I again have to agree with you on that, Dean. But I'm about to fuck your guys' shit up right now. First of all, do you know who John Cryer is?
Yeah.
No,
Uh, so John Cryer
I do know.
is. Have you seen Two and a Half Men?
I know who he is now.
Oh,
Okay.
you just
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna fuck your shit up with this statement: best portrayal of Lex Luthor in a live action medium.
uh
Yeah, Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Oh, it gets better. It gets better. You're gonna like this, Dean. This
probably
portrayal of
not.
Lex Luthor is in the CW universe, mainly in Supergirl. Yeah.
I personally love the CW stuff. I haven't seen Supergirl though, but I love Arrow and I love Flash.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't watched it up to where Lex Luthor was introduced. I did fall off the horse around like midway through season 3 of both
Mm-hmm.
Arrow and Flash, so I don't have
Good.
any experience with him.
That you fell off before it fell off. Don't go back.
No,
I don't
don't listen to him.
Yeah, I don't
Don't
think
It,
listen to him.
it only gets worse, man. Don't go back.
It gets so much better.
It really doesn't. Don't go back.
they're really like they're doing I do feel, and it's crazy that CW series is doing this. They're doing more for the DC universe. Well, okay, they're doing more for the live action DC universe than anything else has ever done.
That's saying nothing, man.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
but
it's not saying much, but it's saying more than any of the movies did.
oh,
Here's
one.
what's really gonna mess you up, man.
Mm.
I don't know if you know this or not, but John Cryer was also Lenny Luthor in Superman 4.
Oh yeah, I got that little tidbit. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why when you first said John Cryer, I was like, wait, what? Oh, wait, no, hold on. I know what he means.
Yeah, dude. But no, he's probably the best incarnation of Lex Luthor, other than the animated series that I have seen. When he was first introduced in Supergirl, I was like, I immediately recognized him because Two and a Half Men is like one of my favorite sitcoms. And I was like, I can't see him as other than a sniveling little brother who can't get laid. And this is just terrible casting choice. And then throughout that season, I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And then the fifth season that just played, I watched him throughout the season, like do his planning and his conniving schemes. And legit, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
You know where
And
they lost me with the CW shows? When they started
please
doing
don't.
crossovers with every
No,
single.
That's the
Like,
best part.
they can't stop making more shows, and they
mm-hmm.
can't stop doing crossovers between those shows. So like you essentially have to watch all of them. It's like reading the comics, but like way less good.
No, you don't have to watch all of them. You just have to watch the episode from that season for that crossover. Like, if you didn't want to watch them, you didn't have to, because, like, literally everything that's going on in their show and their universe before the crossover is moot. Doesn't really matter. They'll explain what you need to know. Because I just finished watching the Crisis on Infinite Earths one. It's actually really good. But like after that, it made the show that much better because they had to deal with the aftermath of that event.
The problem though is like if they cross over with oh god, what is the show with the bunch of random characters that don't matter?
DC Legends.
Yeah, if they cross over with that show, you've never seen it, you don't know what that show is. You're gonna be watching that crossover like, who the fuck is this guy?
Once
Who are,
again,
why are you here?
they'll explain all that during the crossover. Like they
Not
brought
well, dude. I watched that crossover. They don't do it well.
okay, and then also finally they brought in Black Lightning. Oh man, that
That's
was
somehow a redemption for this.
no, it's not a redemption. It was just funny as fuck to me because like Black Lightning is legit like the epitome of blackness. Not even just in a CW show, just in general for a show, the epitome of blackness. And then they bring him in. I think it was like during the Flash portion episode, and I'm just like, oh, this is not going to mesh well, and it didn't. It really did not mesh well at all. I
You
was
know,
like,
you know what it is. If I'm being honest, really, what it is, I loved the CW's Flash for the first few seasons,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm,
and then they start crossing over with like Arrow, which I really hate,
yeah,
and with Legends and with Supergirl
Supergirl.
and all this
Arrow's
crap.
good. I don't know how you can hate
Don't get
Arrow.
me started, Jordan.
The first 2 seasons of Arrow are really good, dude. He
First two
does,
seasons are the worst. That's
dude.
the one show that
Oh
does
my,
get better.
Dean, you have failed this podcast, bro. The first 2 seasons, the first 2 seasons of Arrow are like the only good seasons, bro.
Oh my
Uh,
God, Jordan.
I will no. All right, this is my standpoint. I had a hard time getting through any Arrow season. Period. None of them were really good or worth watching for me. I only kept up with it out of loyalty for the whole CW universe. Just like the reason I still watch Gotham, even though it fell off the fucking rails after it killed off Jada Pinkett Smith's character.
Exactly. But
That's
anyway, my point was they kind of ruined the Flash after they started doing that because the Flash was very much a different tone and a different style of show.
yeah. And when they
And
do
once
crossovers,
they started crossing over, it became way more homogenous.
because
So, like, if you like those other shows, it's probably fine and maybe even way better. But for me personally, that's when it all went off the rails. So, like, I don't want to watch those other shows. I liked that this was its own self-contained thing. And yeah, sure, like it takes place in the same universe, so it makes sense that like Felicity from the Arrow that from Arrow would show up and that if Flashpoint happens, it would affect all these other like that's fine. But like don't turn it into those shows.
yeah, the Flash has become progressively less like happy and wholesome and like a little bit darker as time progressed because of that. I will admit that it did definitely have an effect on the overall tone of the Flash show.
Like, can we all just agree that The Flash was the best show when it came out?
Yes.
Yes,
Like the
Yes.
best CW show when it came out, like
Yeah.
hands down, right?
Yeah, hands down.
yes. Like,
And that's the best iteration of Flash that they've done so far.
oh
Live
yeah,
action. Live action.
Live
I
action, no question. But
wholeheartedly agree.
Oh,
And the fact that everything in the Flash show is an homage to all of its predecessors is just icing on the cake.
yeah, bringing in what was the episode? I forgot. Like they brought in the original Flash actor from the first like really shitty live action movie in the 80s or whatever to do.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think
dad.
it's that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's his father. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's straight up. I think it was like the first episode. Barry's dad.
Yeah, I was like, that's the greatest Easter egg of all time, dude.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, and like, dude, they picked such a stellar cast
Mm.
for that show. Like, Barry's
Oh no.
his adopted father. Like, basically, fuck, I forgot. He was the cop in Law and Order, but I can't think of his name right now. But he's such a good father figure in that show.
He really is.
He's super good.
That dude is like the TV dad that like that's the kind of dad I want to be, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And like, no matter what happens, like, he's just a fucking rock. He's just a stalwart defender for your heart and feelings. And like, I would love to play basketball or talk shit at like watching a football game with him any day of the week.
Right? Dude, I forgot that they had um a live action Bart Allen in Smallville. Like that hurts me a lot.
Oh, dude. So, like, guilty pleasure, Smallville is probably one of my favorite DC shows that I've ever watched.
Unfortunately, I know that.
Yep, ever. Like, I legit downloaded and sat and watched all 10 seasons of Smallville, and I still loved it. Like, I still think Tom Welling is like one of the better iterations of Superman / Clark Kent. The only thing that show failed on was one, it was a little too campy at times, and two, you didn't get to see him in like the iconic suit until like legit the last episode, and it was like for like 10 seconds.
To be fair though, like that was kind of the whole point of the show. Like it wasn't a Superman show.
I get that and I accept that. One thing I will say that show has done better than any medium is show the relationship between Lex Luthor and Clark Kent
Mm.
and why Lex hates him so much. Like, I will say Michael Rosenbaum is probably my second favorite live action iteration of Lex Luthor because you see him go from wholesome, intelligent, like good intentioned human being and how his family and the circumstances that he's put in just turn him into this megalomaniacal maniac that wants to take over the world and like basically control everything around him so he can't be hurt again.
I feel like that's one of you know what my problem is. I was gonna say like I feel like that's one of those shows that I should go back and just watch. I know I'm not gonna do it though.
I know you're not, but like I would give you that extra push and say you should because if you watch that show for nothing else than to see Lex Luthor's descent and like how good of a portrayal that role was for Michael, like it was just so good. Like you felt bad and then you understood his motives as the seasons progressed. Like you understood why he did what he did and how the relationship with his father, fuck, his father who they created for that show, what's his name? He's a really good actor. Alex's father, Smallville.
Person.
Lionel Luther, who's the actor? John Glover. He like his portrayal of Lionel Luther and like how he just crushed Lex's soul and basically molded him into the asshole that he became. So good. Like
Dude,
Smallville was ahead of its time when it came to like making a like an overarching story and showing like a progression of someone into their iconic comic book counterpart role.
dude, why I'm gonna get back to this topic, but just real quick. Why does the original live action Flash look like Sloth from the Goonies? Like I'm just looking
Yeah.
at him like, what
Oh
were they
wow.
thinking? Like, oh my god,
That
dude.
is awful.
It's
Oh,
so bad.
oh shit. And Dean, you want to know what something's funny is? In the Infinite Crisis crossover, Barry Allen's CW Flash meets up with the DC Justice League Flash from that cinematic universe. Just randomly. Like there's no real reason for them meeting up, they just do. And it's actually a really funny interaction. Also, another little tidbit. Do either of you like know the show Lucifer or watch it at all?
I'm
No,
aware of it.
aware. Yeah.
Yeah, so John Constantine, like also one of my favorites in that DC CW universe, he has to go to the devil. They use the actor from Lucifer to play the devil in that crossover as well, which I thought was fucking amazing.
I'm sorry, I just can't get over this Flash, dude. Like I'm just so I'm s- the Flash is easily one of my top 3 superheroes of all time and I'm just really upset and personally insulted that they did this at some point.
He's out there trying his best.
he, he looks happy about it, but I'm not. Like, holy you know what? I think it's time to move on.
Yeah. All right, let's get back on topic.
I
PC
just
versus console. Jesus Christ.
oh my god. I can't. Somebody else do this. I can't do it. Oh my god. So I guess the best way to start is like what is your guys' history with playing games? Like I know Jordan, you're a primarily PC player, but has that always been the case?
Oh no, no. No. I would say that to, to put it into like hours spent on which platform, like my hours only tipped towards PC predominant in the past maybe 7 to 8 years, maybe when I could actually like build my own machine and and stuff. Because before it was just I had an old crappy machine, and I could really only run specific games. Like I, I'm a big Civ player, a big RTS kind of person. Thankfully, they don't take much to usually render the old ones. So I played a lot of Command and Conquer, a lot of Warhammer 40k. Like if it was an RTS, I usually just played it. So I spent a lot of hours on that. But during those times when I was a teen and a little bit younger, I still had consoles. I still had PlayStation, Nintendo, and that's really where I spent most of my time.
You're
But
saying
now
that back in the
Switch.
day, you didn't have a PC strong enough to run Anno 1800?
No, not back in the day. I do now though.
What about you, John?
So my this video game experience stems from a relationship with predominantly my father and subsequently my brothers.
Mm.
And it was started with Super NES, Street Fighter 2, and just getting on that and like talking shit to each other and like beating each other up. And then it went to arcade cabinets where I played against my dad, and Tekken became our main fighting series where we would like just spend quarters and hours at the arcade trying to beat each other back and forth. Um, it went from console gaming to PC gaming around when I turned 14. And I started playing Warcraft 3, the custom map engine. So like I was in Dota before this whole MMO, this MOBA like explosion. Um, and I would play like the custom maps like Uther Party, really fun. Tower Defense, and then it went to Counter Strike, and then from there it took a bad turn to where I was started doing predominantly PC games with console games here and there, depending on the releases. In 2007, when I got into World of Warcraft,
Mm.
yeah,
So for
not
me, I have a really interesting kind of history with it, which is antithetical to you guys because I
mhm.
started out playing games kind of like you were talking about, John, with my dad and my brother and my sister on the NES. And then my dad actually decided that he wanted to be the cool guy and get the Genesis when that came out. And so I had a Sega Genesis and never had a Super Nintendo.
Really.
Yeah, yeah. Greatest regret that I had no control over in my whole life. And then I had an N64, and from that point on, I kind of had everything. So, except Xbox, because, well, but I had
I
an N64. I had a PS1, Dreamcast, very briefly, which I think I either sold or gave to my neighbor at that time, and PS2, GameCube, etc., etc. I've had them all, and I only kind of dabbled in PC gaming. Kind of like I think I've brought it up on this show before, but I know I've talked to you guys about it before. I was really into Civ for a long time and games like that. Diablo 2, those kind of games that back in the day were really only viable on PC. But kind of like you were talking about, Jordan, I never had a PC strong enough to do much else. And so I've just kind of fully dug in my roots in playing console games to the point now where like I have a PC that can run games totally fine, but I'm so used to like sitting on the couch with a controller and being super comfy with my 65-inch TV that the idea of sitting here in an office chair 3 feet from this pleb sized screen is almost offensive to me.
Yeah, I get
um
that.
so uh, it was interesting that you said that you never had a SNES and you had a Sega and that was a regret. I had both. So I had both, and I actually played more Sega than I did SNES because for some reason that's where people bought me games when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
And that's where my love of Sonic came from. I had five
Mm.
Sonic games that were released on the Sega, and I played and beat the crap out of them over and over again when I was little. I had a
That's
great experience with the Sega. That and I played Clay Fighters on Sega, which
Yep.
was a weird freaking fighting game that was awesome.
Hmm.
What else did I
Altered
play?
Beast.
Yep, a little bit. My friend had it. I didn't own
it
it
was
myself.
so bad, dude.
It was so bad it was good. Like I still remember the sound effects from that game. It sounded like
Yeah.
your speakers were blown out every time you transform, but no, that's how they put it
I
in there.
think Sega's sound just sucks because Mortal
It had a
Kombat
really
port.
unique sound to it.
Yeah, like
The sound chip in that console is really distinct.
the Mortal Kombat port on Sega. I remember it looking good, but I think like going back and watching videos about it, like the sound was terrible on it.
But it had that blood code, bro. Gotta have that
Yeah,
blood code.
the SNES didn't
So
have that.
I'm gonna say this right now: Mortal Kombat is not as good as a gaming franchise as it's made out to be, in my opinion.
I
Even the current iterations.
I've
I
never
would say
really cared
especially the
for it.
current iterations, but I know I'm in the minority about that.
It's just like you can fight me on that and try and convince me anything otherwise, but like straight up, I hold myself as a fighting game aficionado to like I've actually tried fighting games more than anything else. Like I wouldn't try a different food until a long time, etc. That, but like Mortal Kombat could not get into. I can get in like nearly any other fighting game. Mortal Kombat, it's just it doesn't seem smooth. Like combos seem really jittery. Like it's not a fluid movement from the fighters, and like it just seems out of place with the fighting, like with what I think a fighting game
Where do
should
you
be.
where do you
So,
hold up Soul Calibur in the mix of all of them?
Soul Calibur is actually
does
probably
your soul still burn?
shut the fuck up. It's probably one of my top five, if not top 10 fighting games. Especially the newest one. It's really fun. I will say that the juggles in that game for the earlier iterations were not that good, and they got better over time. But with Mortal Kombat, they've held that really stuttered, jittery juggle bullshit sideways body animation throughout the whole line of games to where it's like I just can't deal with it anymore. Like
Hmm.
the button presses don't match what I see on the screen fluidly enough for me to get into it.
So I'm gonna get back to that in a second, but Jordan, don't think that that low key blaming your bad taste in playing Sega on somebody got past me. Like I heard that little. Oh well, that's where everybody bought me games, so that's why I played a bunch
I
of
was
Sega.
like I was like 7, 6. Like I can't make those decisions. I didn't know any better back then. You didn't know better either. Like I just know that I honestly I'll fight anybody that says Sonic is like well, okay, not every Sonic game is good, of course, but like
Yeah,
the original Sega Sonic games are incredible. They're so fun.
I have a question. If you had to choose one platform to play on and just totally deny the other, would it be PC or console?
Who are you asking?
Both of you.
For me, console. I've already made that choice.
Why? Why is that though?
Mostly for the reasons that I was talking about before, where like I've been doing this for 30 years now, and sitting on a couch, nice and comfy with a controller and a big TV, is just the way that I like to enjoy games.
But to with that argument, like you can do the same thing with a computer. Like,
Well, first of all, it becomes more complicated with a computer, like infinitely more complicated, because a console is basically just plug and play, first of all.
yeah, okay.
But even ignoring that part, you have to worry about compatibility with PCs and your TV and setting up the graphic settings and all these things that they're not, I'll admit, they're not difficult, but like that's an extra layer of complexity that I don't personally want, especially
Hmm.
now that I'm getting older. Like the more complicated something is, the less likely I am to want to engage with it. And then as kind of an additional point to that, I guess, like I've been on PlayStation specifically for so long and Nintendo specifically for so long that I'm really a part of those ecosystems. So like
Hmm.
with PlayStation, like I have trophies tied into that. That's like a part of my gaming history. I can go back and see what I played, when I played it, how much of it I played, the things that I accomplished. My library is there, so PS5 will just have all my PS4 games because I bought them digitally.
Mm-hmm.
And I have history and a connection to those IPs that PlayStation and Nintendo keep exclusive. So if I were to just play on PC, I would never be able to play those games again. And
Okay.
that right there would be enough to where I'd be like, well, to hell with PC then.
Sure. All right. I get that.
Um,
Jordan?
so although I am a huge advocate for PC as a platform and PC gaming, I don't think I could give up Nintendo because
Mm-hmm.
they've always been in tandem for me, and I think a lot of PC players are like that. Like a lot of the quote unquote PC master race players are always like PC is the best way to play. Oh, and my
Mm-hmm.
Switch. Like there's always
Yeah.
and Nintendo because Nintendo is so ubiquitous, it's so cherished that it's hard to ignore it because they're with Sony and Xbox titles. Yes, sometimes you'll eventually get them the games I'm talking about. You'll sometimes get them on PC and they perform better. They're usually optimized better. Eventually, sometimes it's huge missteps, but
I
with
would say back in
Nintendo,
the day, that was very much in the air.
with Nintendo though, there's no options. There is
Yeah.
no legal and
That's
like
the key word.
yeah, there
There's
is
no
no
legal options.
yeah, there's no legal and open option for you to play any. I can't think of any licensed Nintendo game really that's not already like a third party or whatever that's on
Yeah.
PC. It's you're kind of stuck. If you want to play Nintendo games, you better have a Nintendo console. Full stop.
That's right.
Yeah. I will 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. Out of all of the consoles, like, regardless of how you talk about sales, Nintendo is nostalgia porn personified. Like, there's so many things, there's so many different franchises just in Nintendo alone that are straight up, you just can't give it up. Like, that's something that you will always go back to no matter what. And like, even now, like, I never played any of the Mario parties until very recently, like probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's probably one of the staples that I can't live without. Like, I even got the kids into them. I got my fiance into it to where we like literally like, okay, the kids are asleep. Let's fire up the Dolphin emulator and let's play some Mario
Yeah.
Party 6. Like, it it's so good. And like, turning that question back on myself, like, I would have to agree that console wins over PC, just for the fact that even if you port console games to the PC, like using the Dolphin emulator, there is a lot of complexity. There is a lot of hurdles that you have to get through in order to have a comfortable gaming experience. Like, to play the Dolphin emulator Mario Party game, I have to use a third party USB Wii U port GameCube controller converter to plug into my PC, and then have a whole bunch of GameCube game controllers plugged in there. And then even then, like, it was hard for me to get 4 players to work at a time because it didn't register like that. It wasn't plug and play like it is on a console. On top of, I can't even get the wireless Bluetooth controllers for the Switch to work for the PC. Like, it just doesn't work. Period.
Yeah.
Um. So that being said, Dolphin is incredible.
Oh yeah,
The team behind that emulator is phenomenal. So I give them unlimited credit when it comes
yeah.
to whatever that is because it's like Dolphin, which I do use Dolphin, and I have that 4 port GameCube controller, like to USB connector hub as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the
Yeah.
struggles involved with it. Um, but it's like, what's what's more effort when you introduce the cost as well? So is it worth it going through that and setting it up on Dolphin and getting it, or should I just buy a GameCube, buy the game and then just run with that, right? It's like, what's a better option at the end of the day sometimes? And if it's a really popular game, maybe just buying the original console might be better, but that's not always an option.
Are you guys supporting piracy?
No,
uh,
no. I'm just saying, like, that's
Uh,
that's a downside of consoles, is that sometimes games on consoles, if they're never ported or remastered, they just die. But
they die out.
but PC games, I can boot up a fucking a DOS game from the early '90s and play it to my heart's content if I really wanted to. There's
hold on.
there's some
Hold
configuration involved, but it's possible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, bro, like, don't make it seem like you can just slot a floppy disk into a modern PC. You know that shit's more complicated.
Good. Yeah, you have to find a lot of adapters. I will say this to that earlier question, Jordan. It's always easier to get the original console and play the game on like that. Story, I got DDR fever not too long ago, to where I was like, oh shit, my friend Jason's coming from Texas. We used to play DDR all the time. And I was like, I need to get this set up so we can play when he comes down. So the first thing I was like, okay, let me borrow this PS3 that's backwards compatible and see if that works. PS3 worked. PS3 played the PS2 game disc that I still had, but the gamepad didn't work because you needed to plug in the PS3 controller. Then you needed an adapter to work for a PS3 that was USB that plugged into a PS2 port. I tried 6 different adapters, got one that worked with no problems, plug and play. But there was the latency issue.
Ooh.
Because like when you're stepping on the pads and you see the arrows up there, like if it's not timed right, you're always going to miss. And like, I know how good I am at a game, and if I keep missing, it's going to piss me off to where I don't want to play it. So I was like, all right, how can I handle the latency issue? Like, did the in-game menu, and like, it just got to a point where I was like, fuck it. How much is a PS2? It's $70. Okay, I'll get the PS2, $70. Plugged everything into the PS2. Everything worked fine. No muss or fuss about it. And then I even looked at the alternative of like getting the game Step Mania on the PC, but that was the same problem. It's like you can get it to work, but you need a specific pad, or like the sensors might not work, and blah blah blah. You need an adapter for this. You need to update these drivers. And if this is the game that you grew up playing DDR on, like for me, it's Healing Vision, Rhythm and Police. Like those games, those song titles on Step Mania might not follow the same step pattern that I remember or that I grew up with, to where I get that nostalgic feeling of like why I love this game so much.
You
And the
still have
muscle
that.
memory.
You still have that muscle memory from those original
Yes,
songs and everything.
yes. I
oh
have
yeah,
the
dude. I
dude.
can still jump into Guitar Hero to this day and just go.
Yep, I have the muscle memory with DDR to the point where I can do 360 jumps and spins during the song. And like Jason and I had like routines where we would like finish a song backwards, not even facing the screen. I'm telling you, like, dude, this shit,
Damn.
like, to relive that moment, you need it at it's an original state.
Yeah, you couldn't do
Like,
that with PC. No, there's no way.
exactly. And like that's why I think, in my opinion, as much as I love PC, console wins over PC because of that feeling that cannot be re-engineered without just countless effort. Like, to put it this way, I'm trying to play Capcom versus SNK 2. My original PS2 controller had frayed wires to where it wouldn't work. So I needed to get like an alternate retro gaming, like third party one that wasn't made by Sony anymore, because I guess Sony's not making those controllers anymore. When I got the third party controller, when I started playing the game, I immediately understood what was wrong with the controller and how it was inputting my commands with the game. Like, I was like, the directional inputs are slower than my movements, to where it's missing some of my key directions before I do a move. The button presses are half a second behind what it's supposed to be, for it to recognize I did this directional movement and then you did this button press. So now you do a combo. Now you do the special move. Like you feel it because that's what your time and effort is building up that muscle memory, building up that feeling. And no matter how long you are apart from that game or that experience, when it's in your hands, 9 times out of 10, it just instantly comes back to you.
What do you have to say about that, PC nerd?
Um, I mean, yeah, that's a really direct.
Uh,
That's an extremely direct example, but I mean that is not the majority of cases that people experience. You know,
Yeah.
it is.
no, but it is an indicative to. I don't know what the word that I'm looking for, but like that. That's the kind of experience that people have. A PC
People.
is a PC is a PC.
Yeah, but I mean, I have fond memories, and I have cataloged information of games that are super old as well that are PC games. Like you can't tell me that I'm sure you played a lot of World of Warcraft, right, John?
Yep.
Yeah. How many memories of World of Warcraft do you
Ooh.
have that are extremely fond that
Oh my God.
and
There are a lot.
and guess what? You can still go back and play World of Warcraft the same way that you did back then if you want to spin up a vanilla server or if you wanted to go with the new classic mode or whatever. But
Wow, classic.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's all still there. It's all still there waiting for you.
But World of Warcraft is a really specific example where that game is still supported to this day, even though it should have been burned down to the ground a long time ago and replaced with different tools.
Um,
And they had to go all the way back and release a different version, well, the original version, for people to play that because they were sick and tired of their crap.
yeah,
Fran-
and like Blizzard,
franchises,
Blizzard just wanted to make the money off of it. But
franchises do that all the time though. They reinvent themselves and they, like Call of Duty
That's
just did it last year.
But like my point is that World of Warcraft's a really specific example in that it's still going all these years later. That's usually not the case for PC or console. The
So
idea
yeah,
that a game from when did that game come out? 2006?
no, 2006 was when they released Burning Legion. I think it was earlier than
You
that.
know that 2004. It was 2004, which is even
Burning
worse.
Crusade. Burning Crusade. Yeah. But I will agree with Jordan. Like, yes, there are nostalgic instances when it comes to PC, and I think that's not more. It's not more of like the muscle memory and the time and effort that I put into the game because PC is pretty standard when it comes to controls, and you can configure them to fit like earlier games that you're more used to. I think my nostalgia for World of Warcraft wasn't like playing it and like learning something specifically to do a specific movement. It was the whole grinding aspect, but I'm probably a far edge case where I like grinding shit out. Like I like
So do I.
doing something that seems like impossible to get unless you put an accumulated amount of hours and effort into it. But that feeling to where like I can hold a specific controller or get on a specific dance pad and I can tell you what's wrong with it or what needs to be changed for it to be at the level I expect it to be at. I can't get that with a PC game because I will admit PC game peripherals are interchangeable and you get used to certain ones, but to their detriment, like you can use like nearly any keyboard or mouse and get the same kind of feeling just by changing the preferences in the game. That's I think one of the best reasons that PC can live like will live past consoles to a certain degree because like there's so many different things you can do on a PC relatively easily, but porting other things into it is the difficulty.
So that actually leads me into something else I want to bring up, and I want to get your guys' take on this. Actually, let me back before I go there. Let me back up for a second, because one of the things I want to touch on is Jordan. You like 90% of the time are playing on PC, right?
I mean, I guess.
I mean,
Not 90. It's not 90. It's
okay, but the vast
majority.
majority of your time is spent on PC.
Majority,
Like,
yes.
if you're
But
not on PC, you're probably playing some Switch exclusive game or something like that, right?
yeah.
And then John, like I know you're hardcore into League of Legends, but like you're more 50-50 on that. Like if you're gonna play something, you're just gonna play it where it happens to be, right?
Yes, that is 100% true. Yes.
And then for me, like I'm gonna play it on console unless I have no choice or I have some really specific reason to play on PC. So the reason that I asked that is because my question, or the topic that I want to hit on rather, is inputs. Specifically like input peripherals. Because on PC for almost everything, you're gonna use mouse and keyboard. And you can use controllers if you want to deal with getting those to connect. Although I will say that getting an Xbox controller to connect to Windows 10 is pretty damn easy now. But that definitely wasn't always the case. Um, definitely not. And if you want to use something other than that, it gets sketchy too. But regardless, I hate using a mouse and keyboard. I hate it.
Really?
I can't stand it, dude. My first thing is like I don't understand why they would choose WASD as the keys for directional inputs. That's like the worst thing they could have picked. The
Hmm.
only reason I can imagine that they chose those is because it makes it easiest to reach the numbers and the F keys above for hotkeys.
Hmm.
But like the fact that W is slightly off center drives me up a fucking wall. I hate it. And like if I'm playing on a longer gaming session, I feel like I'm actively getting carpal tunnel from using the mouse. So
Okay, continue. Yeah, sorry.
so well, I mean my follow up to that was just gonna be like, so can you guys explain to me why this input method is actually good? Because I don't get it.
So obviously a keyboard and mouse were not intended for gaming when they were first developed. They were intended for typing.
Right.
Um, that being said, they work pretty damn well. And I would say that your accuracy, full stop, is always better on mouse and keyboard than it is on controller.
I don't know about always. I think that that's a little bit subjective, but
I
like
think that
objectively, it's probably better. Yeah.
I think I do think that it is objectively better because a lot of times um, controllers in console shooters, things that require really high level accuracy, they use aim assist type things because you can't always get your stick to be pointed perfectly where you want it, and they have to kind of nudge you a little bit over to the left or the right or up and down wherever. Whereas with a mouse, you have more control than than a, a than a stick, I think. And you have a good keyboard. You have a Logitech, don't you?
Yeah, I have a G910.
Yeah, that's a it's a good keyboard. It is. Um,
It's it's just a mouse is way more precise, as Jordan was talking about.
significantly more.
Significantly more precise, on top of the fact that you can change so many preferences and properties when with your controls on a PC, like keyboard and mouse as well. Just the mouse alone is just
Yeah.
amazing. Like I got a Logitech Proteus G2 and have never went back.
Mm.
Like that thing is amazing. You could even put weights in the bottom of the mouse to change like the drag of it. It's insane.
I've got
Um,
Well, I was gonna say I've got all Corsair right now. I used to have all
mhm.
Logitech, and I switched over just because the insides of my computer are all Corsair, so I wanted just to have one software to control my
Yeah.
What
RGB.
the?
One company you're supporting.
Oh my god!
Yeah, well,
I mean, I
it
can't even
makes
talk trash because like all my peripherals are Logitech, but like that wasn't an intentional choice.
it just makes configuration for RGB and things like that a lot easier. So I didn't want to deal with multiple different things adjusting my coloring and stuff. But my mouse, to get to my point, my Corsair is like the one that has the 12 buttons where your thumb sits. So it's got
Yeah.
like the 12 unique buttons, and that took a little bit of learning to get the muscle memory down for it, but now, oh my god, I love it. It's like I have a whole other hand.
You set up macros for all those buttons, huh?
Well, it depends on the game. Sometimes it's a little bit much to remember 12 different macros, but I'll usually have like 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 tied to it, like directly from where your thumb sits, maybe up and down, left and right. But Dean brought up that WASD is probably the worst place to put it. I think it is the only place that you could ever effectively put your
Yeah.
walking controls on a
Yeah.
keyboard, and it's extremely intelligent because in the 90s, the keyboard configurations were kind of all over the place. Like, if you want to know
Yes.
how terrible keyboards used to be, go back and play the original settings for those games. They had some dumb things going on.
Oh my god.
But
In my defense, I did not say it was the worst place.
okay,
I said it's obnoxious.
It's obnoxious and really bad. But if you think about it, most people are right-handed, and with most people being right-handed, they're going to use the right hand for the mouse. And going back to elementary school, when we all started learning to use the keyboard, home keys. Home keys are ASDF, and then it's HJKL, right? So you think logically your hands are already going to be there. Your right hand's going to be in your mouse. Where's your left hand? It's already touching ASD. So the W is just above it. So all you need to do is move your middle finger between those two if you're going to be using that to walk and move the camera. Oddly enough, I was so used to that formation and that use when I started playing MOBAs at a more competitive level, predominantly League of Legends, because with Dota, I didn't even set up hotkeys or anything like that. When I started getting more competitive with it, I noticed I don't use the mouse to scroll my camera because it would just shoot the camera way too fast for me to follow and I'd lose my character. So what I did is I set up my WASD as my camera control, and then I set my hotkeys for my skills. Instead of them being QWER, I moved them up to 1, 2, 3, 4, and my items were the F keys. And it drastically improved my reaction time and my play to where I was playing at a high competitive level on League of Legends because I was so used to that hand placement and formation.
Here's a question that you guys may or may not be able to answer. I think maybe John, you might be able to answer this for me, but why is it so difficult for consoles to have remapping as an option?
I don't know. I think it's literally laziness on the developer's part, in my opinion.
Hold on. We both know that developers are not lazy. That can't be the case.
Oh god, no. They first of all, you already know I code and I do shit like that. So there are times where it's like I could spend another 3 days to add another 25 lines of code to handle the logic for this edge case scenario that I feel is never going to happen, or just push the code as is and hope that edge case never comes up and causes a huge error.
yeah, or
I'm going to save myself 3 days.
yeah, and also what ends up happening is I have this entire backlog of bugs right now. I don't have time to worry about key mapping. You're going to deal with whatever I set up as a default,
Yep.
But here's my problem. Like, unless it's an exclusive, most of these games are probably going to come to PC, where key mapping is pretty much a definitive expectation at this point.
Yep.
I don't know how common it is or it isn't, but it's mostly an expectation.
I don't think I've played a game on PC recently that didn't have full control. Sometimes certain things are like, okay, left and right mouse clicks are definitely this, but usually you can control most everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're developing one of those games for PC as well as console, or even if you're developing it for console and you know it's coming to PC later, doesn't it just save you time and effort to do it now?
Key mapping is different between keyboards and controllers. It's different input types.
Yeah. So I would have to agree with Jordan because, like, you're only expecting them to use, like, how much does a controller have? Like 12 buttons, something like that. And most of those buttons and inputs are only going to do specific things. There's no point in really mapping that to anything else. Like, you're not going to map the start button to your kick and shit like that. So
Well, what if I wanted
I I understand, but like that's what I mean. Like most of the closest thing you usually get, especially like again with me in fighting games, is like they have preset mappings. It's like maybe you want it this, but like not to where you have full autonomy and can change it to whatever you want because they feel that you shouldn't need to. And I feel like that's a huge misstep, especially when it comes to fighting games. Like RPG games, FPS games, I can kind of understand here and there. Like, but when it comes to fighting games, that's huge. And I actually was ridiculously angry and pissed when I loaded the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 online game to PS4. I think I actually called you about this, Dean. And I was about to play it. I was so excited. It got updated to HD graphics,
Mm-hmm.
but you couldn't change the button configuration.
Yeah.
At all.
So so you're saying that like mapping for a controller is different than keyboard, but
Yeah.
like a lot of games that I've played on PC have controller support. And usually when that's the case, I can remap my controller too.
Yeah.
I so I think it's not like it's so different that it's a monumental task to include a feature like that, but I think the biggest difference is it's a cultural difference. Like consoles went through it before PC did. So in the original, like between the mid 80s and the early 90s, and you can use N64 as an example for this shit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like the controller buttons and layouts weren't really standardized, but we're at a point now where console controllers are standardized. Four
Yeah.
face button, two stick, D-pad, triggers. Like it is standard across the board. There's only small differences between them, whether you're in the I want the horizontal sticks or I want offset sticks kind of camp, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Computers went through that a little bit later than consoles did because they weren't used for high intensity FPS games until like the late 90s ish. So
Yep.
now computers and mouse and keyboard setups are kind of standardized the same. I mean, if you boot up if I want to boot up a shooter, then I immediately know and expect that WASD is move, space is jump, shift is run, control is crouch,
Mm-hmm.
Q E R F are my specials, ZXC are specials, 1 2 3 4 are moves. Like there is such an understanding about how things should be laid out, and we figure this out over 20 plus years. We've been able to adapt the keyboard, which was not intended for games, to now we've found this through trial and error. Okay, here's really the most optimized way to play on a keyboard, and it really works. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, and like to add on to that, I think just the fact that you have full control of your PC, that you can like map anything to anywhere, I think that was just standardized when you port to a PC.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, Dean, that full autonomous button configuration control should be ported with every game to where you're comfortable. Like that's the whole point of you playing a video game is to where you're comfortable, to where you can output the way you expect. And if like something is holding you back, even if it's just one button being in the wrong place, you should be able to change that. I agree with that 100%.
I mean, I would say that like for most games, it probably doesn't matter. On console, like you guys are saying, button configuration and all that's been pretty standard for a while.
Hmm.
But then, you come across a game like, I don't know, Breath of the Wild or Shadow of the Colossus where jump is
Oh
on
Oh,
triangle for some goddamn
God.
oh
Oh
God.
those are the
Jesus.
like if you're making a game like that in 2020, you should know. Like maybe I
It
should
was
give them the freedom to change
It was
this.
the first time he's ever jumped, though. They're learning.
Dude, no, I will dude. Dean, thank you for bringing that up because when I started playing Breath of the Wild again, I was like, why the fuck isn't this working? I'm supposed to be doing a backflip right now. What is going on? I died like probably 3 or 4 times in the beginning when I was like, I should be handing this goblin's ass to him, and then like, why am I like trying to parry? What's going on here? And I was like, oh yeah, you switched the jump button. I was
I
like,
mean, in Nintendo's defense, they did add system level button remapping finally, but like I don't want to have to go in my system config and remap buttons for every damn game I'm going to play.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's not it. That's not where you want to be at. Um, but like,
There was an
man,
interesting. So I do remember, and the original Final Fantasy VII for PlayStation actually had, I think, one button configuration, like option available, and that was to switch. That was to switch X and circle. So people that were used to SNES controllers, like their A
uh-huh.
being on the right side, they could still use it that way. And I actually played that way originally on Final Fantasy VII, where my A button, my select button, was on the right instead of on the bottom where X is.
So that's actually a typical option for PlayStation games.
Oh,
And the reason for that is in Japan to this day,
Mhm.
circle is select and X is cancel.
Yep,
Whereas
yep.
oh,
I remember. I remember that little factoid that I came across.
in fact, the reason that uh, the symbols on the PlayStation controller were selected were with those things in mind. They all represent something.
Yeah.
So circle was intended to be a confirm button, and X was
Yep.
intended to be a
To
cancel
I
be a
button.
wonder why
cancel
they.
button. Yeah.
I wonder why that changed over here then, or why like we went like Xbox. I think was I don't want to. I don't know if they were the first, but I know when Xbox came out, like they made a distinction on their controllers. Like A is at the bottom. That's where you're. That's where you live. You know, that's your accept. I don't know. I don't know if that's what
I
started it, but
Well, I
I
mean,
don't
at that point,
know.
that had already been the way that we did it over here, so that's probably why.
Yeah, they changed it over here because, like, I guess with all the consoles that we've had in America and like the way our brains were wired, it's just like the bottom button was just select. But
it still screws me up going from Switch to PlayStation. Like it takes
yeah,
me a few minutes to like readjust my mind. Like okay, no, it's on the side.
yeah, like it comes like to me in my head, the way that I think about it is like everything, like a lot of shit we do in America is ass backwards, while a lot of stuff in other countries has fucking meaning behind it. Like when I heard that factoid about why they chose those symbols for the PlayStation button and why it's different over there, I was like, that makes sense. It
Yeah.
makes so much sense, it hurts.
And just to kind of expound on that with fun little factoids for you, Jordan, the reason that the square is a square is because it was intended to be a menu button, and the triangle button was supposed to represent somebody's point of view, so it was supposed to be like camera control.
Hmm. Final Fantasy triangle became the menu. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's what they actually didn't end up being those buttons for that in very many games at all, but that was their original concept when they came up with those symbols.
That's fine. They're like, all right, we're going to develop a console. We're only ever going to need 4 different types of input: menu, POV, accept, cancel. That's it.
Yeah, that's fine. Uh, oh, do you guys have any consoles that you felt were killed before their prime or before they reached their potential?
I mean, that I
Dreamcast,
owned, no, but
Wii U.
maybe Dreamcast,
It
Wii
was
U.
I I think honestly,
I don't think the Wii U was killed before it had a chance, but I don't think that it
yeah.
reached
It
its
had its
potential.
chance. It tried its hardest. It could. It,
No, see, that's the problem is that it didn't try its hardest.
nope.
It
Nintendo
didn't.
gave up on it. That's why, actually, I would say the Wii U and the Vita are the best examples of that,
Yep.
and the Dreamcast.
Honestly, for me, it's the Dreamcast because I will say this: one fighting game that I felt was lost in the ether because it was ported on the wrong console was Power Stone. Power Stone was an amazing fighting game that was different than all the others, super fun, and only because it was on the Dreamcast that it didn't hit its stride. That made me really sad.
You can play Power Stone on PSP though.
I know you can play Power Stone on the PSP. I'm not gonna do it because I don't like the PSP. I would actually
Whoa,
I would
whoa!
go out of my way to buy an original Dreamcast and get both the Power Stones just for when I have that itch and I want to play it.
You would
That's how I
rather
would do it.
support those failure Sega nerds than get a
Yep,
PS.
yep.
What do you have against the PSP?
I just don't like it. Like it's
Compelling.
it's it's really hard to say because I actually do love the Switch and the handheld like optionability of it, but I still just don't like the PSP. I have no idea why because I love PlayStation and Sony as a product and a company in general, but I don't know. I just could not get with the PSP, man.
Dude, the
I don't know what to
PSP
tell
might be
you.
the greatest handheld of all time.
Oh god,
No, it's
that's the
not.
worst. Fuck.
I mean, to be fair, I said might be, but
I had
no.
I mean,
I
like for real, like the PSP was an all-in-one media machine,
Yep.
the first of its kind to do that. It had
Yep.
virtually console level graphics. It was a little bit behind, but it was pretty
hmm
close. Um,
It it was
and
ahead of
nowadays,
its time.
yeah, and nowadays it's super easy to mod the shit out of it and do whatever you want with it.
Like I will say this: the only reason for the downfall of the PSP was it was wholly ahead of its time
Mm.
in very many aspects. But to me personally,
And I would
I
say that a console that sells 80 million units didn't really have a downfall, but go on.
it's fine, whatever. What I'm saying is like for the way that I play games and the games that I like to play, I would not be able to play on a PSP. It just didn't click with me.
I I like the PSP. I don't hate it. I'm mostly salty because I had a PSP at launch and it was stolen 3 weeks later. So
Oh
yeah,
man,
in school, I brought it to school because I was cool, and
yeah,
it was stolen pretty quickly.
yeah. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and also I loved Metal Gear Solid. I was playing Twin Snakes and everything on the GameCube, which is incredible. And then I played Metal Gear Acid on the PSP, and I didn't know what hit me. So
Acid, obviously.
I was like, "What is this freaking game? I just want normal tactical box gameplay."
Mm. Do you like fighting games, Jordan? Like,
Uh, so I love Smash Brothers. That's probably my only fighting game that I really ever got into. I
oh,
None of my friends like it, it's just a cultural thing. No one around me ever played fighting games. None of my friends ever really
mhm.
played them, so I never got into them. But like I countless hundreds and hundreds of hours of Smash Brothers with friends, but
See, so
no fighting
go ahead.
games. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much
I
it. Just
will.
no fighting games really.
I will say this, and like whoever hears this or whatever can like come at
Oh,
me. I don't give a shit.
I don't like
Super
this.
Super Smash Brothers is not a fucking fighting game, in my opinion.
All right, so
Uh,
that's the end of the podcast, guys. I hope it's all.
just
Then what is it?
it
I mean, it's not a
it's
tournament fighting game, but like what
I
is it?
don't know what to explain it, but like it's just not a fighting game to me. Uh, just for the fact, like I don't know, it might be because like I'm salty and like it's the only fighting game. I put up quotations just so you know, to where I routinely get my ass handed to me
Mm.
by
That's what it is.
everybody. It might be that, but no, like it's just like I can't. It's not that good of a fighting game. Like I will say, Smash Bros. Ultimate, amazing game to play with your friends. One of the best games to get together and like just talk shit and just have a good time. I will give it that, but like to be in a fighting game tournament and to be heralded as like so good when a lot of the characters are just persona non grata or have to be straight up banned out for you to hold tournaments. that kind of holds to the aspect is like it's not a fighting game in the sense that I believe.
What?
I'm
They didn't perfectly balance 100+ characters. Rabble, 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 rabble.
no. First of all, like that's not even the issue because like I play League of Legends that has like 150 plus characters and none of them like they're not all balanced. Dota, all the characters are unbalanced to make it balanced. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like if you're gonna play it in a tournament style, like you shouldn't have to like ban out like just straight up a multitude of characters to make it like work. And I don't know, like just like Dean had a problem with Tekken because he's used to like a simplistic 2D fighting style where there's not a third dimension. In Smash Brothers, there's like a third and fourth dimension part of it to where
Uh,
it.
kind of. It's vertical, yeah, but there's no depth to Smash Brothers.
Oh no, there is like so they're actually you can't grasp it because I think they coded it improperly. But there's certain moves that should connect in Smash Brothers, but since the Z axis is offset incorrectly, it doesn't work. Like for instance, Donkey Kong's punch, there's a certain width or distance to where it will miss when it should hit because the Z axis is off.
Hmm.
And it's those kind of things that I myself have no control over in the game that frustrate me enough to where I'm like, I feel that it's not a pure fighting game that I'm used to. Like in Tekken, I can sidestep, but if someone sidesteps me, they're still within the range to where I know what moves are going to hit. You know what I mean?
I
Just
mean,
like you knew what was going to hit Dan Hibiki.
Fuck you. Dan Abiki's hitbox is fucking coded as shit, and you know it. That's why you picked him because I was beating your ass with Sagat. But anyways, um, but
So that doesn't make it not a fighting game, though. That just
no,
makes
but
it a
I'm
fighting game that's not for you.
no, I understand, but like I've that's the way that's why I mean like that's why I put up quotations like that's how I feel about it. I just feel that when it comes to a fighting game, you should be in control of everything within your surroundings to where like there are certain things that work and certain things that shouldn't. And it should be easy to figure those out. In Smash Brothers, it's not.
I
It's
mean,
not it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's like, okay, in this instance, this didn't work. So no matter what character I pick, this should not work. But that's not the case.
So I guess the most pertinent thing that we haven't touched on is the elephant in the room for console versus PC, right?
hmm,
Those sweet, sweet frames.
Uh, um, in that aspect, PC always wins.
So here's my question. And I did an experiment this week that I was kind of talking with you about, Jordan. So you kind of know the results of where I'm going with this, but does frame rate matter?
Fuck yes, it does.
Go on.
Um,
period.
it
Yeah,
it
that's what I
matters.
have nothing
Okay,
to
again, this is from me. Like most of my, like as you can tell, most of my gaming experience when it comes to consoles is fighting games,
Mhm.
and I think that the reason I pay attention to so many aspects when it comes to what controller I play on, what monitor I play on, what game I play on means so much is because fighting games, if you're off by a millisecond, if you're off by a frame, if you're off by a timing of a button press, that could be the fucking match right there. And frame rate is so important. Button input lag, which plays into frame rate, is so important that when it came to original fighting game tournaments before Evo, most fighting game tournaments would only allow you to run on analog because there was zero button lag input delay. You like basically when you press a button, immediately your character does an action. Like it's to a point to where they like either fighting game companies will put input delay, button input delay in it to match the frames that's on the TV. It's huge. It's a huge thing.
So here's my hypothesis. So what I did is, as a console pleb, my kind of position on this over the years has kind of been like, FPS is something that PC people like to lord over console players because it sounds really good on paper, it looks really good on paper, but nobody actually cares. Because if they did, console players would have been up in arms about this for years, and they're just not. Most console players couldn't give a shit. Some do, but really they don't, because if they're truly a console player and they're not like a PC player who happens to play on console, they don't know any better anyway, so it doesn't matter. So with that in mind, what I did is I have Xbox Game Pass on PC. So I downloaded a few games. I got Hollow Knight, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Minecraft Dungeons. And I went into these games and I played them for a while at 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, and unlocked, which usually ran between 150 and 200 frames per second on my
What's
PC.
hold on?
Mm-hmm.
What's your monitor's refresh rate though?
144.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so, and yes, I went into my settings and made sure that's actually running at 144 before you
Okay.
even ask. So I ran it at 30, I ran it at 60, I ran it unlocked. And despite what I expected to find, which was that I wouldn't be able to tell the difference at all, because whenever I watch one of those, like this is 30 and this is 60 frames, like right next to each other, I can't tell the difference. And Jordan has protested that this cannot be the case for a long time now. So I ran this experiment, and what I found was I can tell the difference. When I played like a whole level in even something like Minecraft Dungeons at 30 frames and then switched to 60 frames, I could definitely tell the difference. However, what I found that was more interesting, and this is my hypothesis, is that if your frame rate is static, meaning that you're not dropping frames left, right, and sideways, but you're at a locked 30, locked 60, or locked 5 million, that's what actually matters. Steady frame rate, whether it be 30, 60, or whatever, is what actually matters. And how high that frame rate doesn't matter at all unless potentially you're doing something like high competitive fighting games or something like that.
Yes,
If you're
you're
playing
correct.
casual fighting games, I would posit that probably still doesn't matter.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna disagree that a steady 30 is an equal experience to a steady 60 or a steady 120 or 144. I'll disagree with
I
that.
mean, I didn't say that, to be fair. Like, a steady 30 is, it's not choppy, but it's not as smooth as 60. But when you play at a steady 30 for a little while, and frankly, if you're not switching to 60 like I was, you'll probably never notice that it's
Yeah.
more choppy or anything. If it's steady at 30, that smoothness, your eyes and your reactions are just going to adjust to that.
Yes. Yes. I 100% agree with that. We are creatures of habit and adaptability, so we adapt to whatever environment that we are playing in. That is why, once again, muscle memory plays into a lot of stuff that we do as gamers, no matter what medium we play on. So yes, I like without even like doing that experiment myself, I agree with the findings.
So, Mr. PC Master Race FPS is everything. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Uh, okay. So let me just restate your argument to make sure that I'm not fighting against myself. So
Okay.
you're saying that if a console can't push a solid and consistent 60 frame, like let's say they're trying to hit 60 and they hit 60 like in menus and when you're walking, but when action starts to happen, the frame rate dips to like 40 and then dips to 30 and then it's variable. It constantly goes up and down, right? You're saying that it's a better experience to just say, okay, well, let's find your average, or let's find a good minimum, lock it there, and then have that as a consistent frame rate throughout the entire game, regardless of what's going on.
Correct.
Okay, so I think that's an obvious decision. So if I have a variable rate, and there's also something else which plays into this, which only PC has right now, but I'll get into in a second. Um, if I have to choose between something wildly shifting between 60 and 30 constantly, yes, I think I'm going to want something. I'm going to want to find some type of way to lock it and keep my experience consistent, because dropping frames is takes me out of the game a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
it pisses me off, especially like, things start blowing up, action starts happening, because it's always when you need the frames the most is when they start to drop.
Yeah.
So I have to agree with that, of course. However, there is something that PC monitors have which is unique in themselves and has not been adapted to televisions, and that's your adaptive refresh rates that are on them.
Mm-hmm.
So
You're
why?
talking V-Sync, G-Sync, FreeSync.
No, I'm talking. Well, yes, I'm talking FreeSync and G-Sync. V-Sync is different, kind of, and it's a little bit deprecated. But yeah, FreeSync or Async, and then G-Sync. So the reason why those make a big deal is there's always going to be, if your monitor runs at 144 hertz and you're pushing out 70 frames a second, or something like that, right? That means that the monitor is going to refresh twice for every frame. So you're going to get a doubling. So it's going to essentially kind of mirror the same thing over and over again.
You're
This
describing the cause of tearing.
Yes, exactly. So the reason why you use, and the reason why G-Sync and Async is a significantly better experience, even for low frame rates, is because you have a one-to-one sync between your graphics card and the monitor itself. So when a new frame is produced and ready to be rendered, that is when your monitor refreshes. And actually, your experience with frames dropping really does diminish, because right now I can't run everything at a solid 60 frames. So I have a 2070 Super. I have a third gen Ryzen CPU. My computer is no slouch. It's by no means the best computer in the world, but it's definitely no slouch. But I have an ultra wide 2K um, monitor. So overall, I have about 5 million pixels, excuse me, that I have to render every time. If I had a smaller monitor, maybe that was just running a normal 1440p resolution, I probably wouldn't have to worry about it. But with some high intensity games, I can't always hit a constant 60, and my monitor runs at 100 hertz. So because I have G-Sync on the monitor is syncing up with whatever my frame rate is, and my experience. I have no tearing. It is extremely smooth. There's no jittering, or um, there's no weird effect when moving rapidly around. It's all really, really smooth and really, really present for you. So I think that helps when you're on PC. So you don't. It's not like you have to build a PC that's as best as possible because I got to get as many frames as possible. There are other technologies that have been inserted to make that experience better, and to balance that disparity, that difference out.
So let me see if I'm understanding you correctly. Your argument is that frame rate doesn't matter even on PC?
My argument is that frame rate absolutely matters, but your monitor only refreshes so much. So if you're pushing 100 and like if you're pushing 175 frames and your monitor is locked at 60 hertz, you're only seeing 60 hertz of frames a second. Like it's locked. Where a higher frame rate does help is with input lag. So higher frame rate is directly tied to your input lag, because it registers keystrokes faster and it displays your inputs faster as well. So your input lag does actually increase the more frames you have, even if you've gone past your monitor's refresh rate. But what I'm saying is, I'll take the not so constant 60 that dips to probably 40 or sometimes 35, 30 with a G-Sync monitor because it still maintains that refresh. It still looks clear, it looks smooth, and I get to play my games at a 5K resolution, you know? So it looks amazing.
So I guess this what you're talking about right now is kind of the crux of my problem with PC gaming. In that if I want to play, I don't know, Spider-Man on PS4, I plug in my PS4 to my TV, I put in Spider-Man PS4 or download it, whatever, boot it up, and I play it. And that experience is whatever that experience is. On PC, I can't play Spider-Man because that's exclusive, but I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter. Red Dead. That's terrible. I don't know. It doesn't
Batman
matter.
Arkham. Batman Arkham.
Sure. We'll play Batman.
That's on
And
PC.
maybe I'm getting 30 frames. Okay, well, I could spend $200 and get a better GPU. I could upgrade my monitor and get a G-Sync monitor that I didn't have before. I can do this, that, and the other. My point is the solution on PC always seems to be to put more hardware, like throw more money at the problem
Yeah.
instead of just having a game that works. Now, I want to be clear. When I say that, I understand that when you're making a game for PC, like anybody could have any random configuration of hardware, so you can't just make something that just works like you can on console where there's one configuration,
Yes.
maybe two
Yes.
now that there's like Xbox One X and PS4 Pro, but the point still stands. Like even then, you have two configurations that you have to worry about versus like 6,000 million configurations you could have on PC.
Way more than that, but yes, you are
Yeah,
correct.
I get that point. But it's just a really complicated way to sit down and just enjoy a video game.
Yeah,
Not to
you
mention, it
are
can be a vastly more expensive one.
you're in the right on all aspects of that statement. Like yes, it actually is drastically tiresome most of the time when I want to play like a specific game on PC. Like when I actually started paying attention to what my PC was made of and like I put time and effort into the build of my PC, spending like 2K plus dollars, like going over each component and then making sure it worked in unison. I had to dive into like forums. It's like, why is my screen tearing when I play on VLC? Can I not play a 4K video on my PC right now? What's the problem with me pushing my GPU to my whatever monitor and out of nowhere that monitor's green? Like PC has so many variables in its configuration and the tools that it uses and that it comes in contact with, you get a vast variety of issues to overcome because it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's so many different ways that you could put it together and that you could use it. And yes, that in turn creates all these problems. But like it's still a fun experience, but it's not as plug and play, easy, just sit down. Like there's not the comfortability that comes with a console when it comes to a PC. I will agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can disagree with that. Yeah. Um, it's the same. It's the same mindset. It's the same challenge that people choose to buy older cars and find the parts and rebuild them and drive them around. Because they become trophies. They become monuments to what you've learned and what you've been through to produce that. But I also think that while the complexity of the build and the complexity of computers introduces a number of issues, it also grants a number of advantages. So we've talked a little bit about
Yes.
the number of configurations that you can have with controls. You can also have a lot of configurations with PC too. So
Yes.
we're talking about upgrading your GPU and spending all this money to play the games that you want. That's at the highest fidelity though. I can drop these games down to freaking pixel graphics usually if I want to and play it on 10-year-old hardware. You know, I spent around with my monitor included, I spent around 2K on my setup that I currently have. But guess what? That's going to be me for another 7 years, possibly, because the last one was about 7, 8 years. And
Yep.
I'm never going to not be able to play the games that I already have. And even if games come out in 5 years, I will still be able to play them, but not at their highest fidelity. I will have to bite the bullet and drop the graphics settings down, but they still allow me to play those games and experience them, just not at their perfect, pristine position. Um,
Yes.
whereas with a console, you have to buy the new console and you have to pay for online play if you want to play online. Whereas online play
Uh huh.
for PC is free unless you have subscription services like World of Warcraft. So it's PC is. I don't think I can make the argument that PC is cheaper. I don't think I'd ever die on that cross. But
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a hard one to fight for, man.
yeah, but so I think if you really didn't care about graphics and you wanted to budget a PC and you wanted to find your value over cost over 5 years, yes, maybe you can make an argument and you're playing Modern Warfare on PC at 30 frames at the lowest graphics settings, sure. But is that even a worthwhile experience at that point? You can possibly make an argument for it, but it's not a worthwhile one. So
So
I
this
don't
this
I don't think
whole
that the cost of the whole reason why I was bringing this up is I don't think the cost is so extreme compared to console gaming.
So this is essentially this whole argument is essentially why I don't like Android anymore. In that, like, you can do virtually whatever the hell you want with an Android phone.
Yes.
However, the ability to do virtually whatever you want introduces a lot of issues that you can
Yes.
potentially run into. And all things being fair and equal, I think that at the end of the day, you have consoles, like, we're going to specifically worry about PlayStation and Xbox because Nintendo does whatever the hell they want. These consoles at this point in time are lasting about 7 years. And if you bought it day one, so let's look at the new consoles that are supposed to come out this year, right?
When the PC PS4 launched, real quick.
2013,
Wow.
November.
Wow. Okay.
So the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are rumored to be about $500 when they come out this holiday, if they come out this holiday. And at this point, I'd say we could probably reasonably expect them to last about 7 years before they're replaced or they go off the rails and do whatever the hell they're going to do. $500 for a 7 year investment is a lot cheaper than what you're talking about at 15. I'll knock you down to about 15. Say your monitor is about $500 because you're not going to have to buy a new monitor very often. I would be surprised if you replace your PC and then buy a new monitor, but maybe you will. It doesn't matter. We're talking about the hardware. So $1,500 every 7 years versus $500 every 7 years. It's just like objectively cheaper. No?
I can't.
And then
Yeah.
and then
Objective.
at that point, my question becomes, is it worth it? Like, is what you have the freedom to do on PC worth $1,000 more?
Yes. Just because if we're just talking about gaming, no. If we're talking about the just autonomous freedom and vast complex additions you can make to make that PC your own and the things you can do on it, yes, it is totally worth it.
Yeah, and I would say it's certainly worth noting that when you buy a PC, you're not buying a gaming machine. Granted, you might be buying it and or building it specifically to play games, but just inherently that computer can do much more than just play games.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, consoles can do more than just play games, but like all things being fair and equal, they're an entertainment machine. They're not going to help you with word processing, video editing, or doing your job or anything like that,
Hmm.
like a computer
Yeah.
can. But if we look at this just from a gaming side of things, I would have to agree with you, man. Like, I just can't sit here and justify an additional $1,000 to play with some benefits on PC.
Yeah, it's not, but like the honestly, I will say this. Coming back to the earlier question, if I do PC or console, like if I could not use a PC, Like if it was just like I couldn't use the PC to game, I would agree console over PC. But if I could not use a PC, period, PC over console. Like because moving my PC was literally the linchpin of the whole setup of the household. I play movies off of that. I do play video games here and there. Like it's like the legitimate entertainment sensor. Like I could plug it into every monitor in the house, and like if the boys wanted to watch a certain movie, yeah, I can just port that over there to their monitor. If my fiance wanted to watch a certain movie, same thing. If I want to play video games while they're all watching movies, same thing. Because I can split the audio output for whatever program to only play out of that TV, and I still have my audio output in front of me at the PC. Like it has more options, it has more flexibility, it's way more malleable than a console. Yes, there's no argument there. But for just specifically talking about gaming, the PC is inferior in that because of that, all those options that it can use.
I would also bring up at this point that most AAA video games at this point are built for consoles first. And so, regardless of how powerful, like you can put the best CPU and graphics card and have the best monitor imaginable, but there's only
Mm-hmm.
so much you're going to get out of a game that was built
Yeah,
for consoles first.
yeah. It's
Well,
not going to use all that power.
so when they port things over to PC, there are a few things that they open up that they strategically lock down. Those things being draw distance, render distance, frame rate, uh, texture rendering. So sometimes they package higher resolution textures that can be included with it, and also display resolution options. So you can my ultra wide. I play games on ultra wide, and it's incredible. So there are some things. So it depends on the company, of course. Sometimes they just do direct ports and they're complete trash. Batman, but sometimes they do nail it and they hit it out of the park. And I know that it's like, okay, well, for just gaming, I can spend $500 every 3 years, or sorry, $500 every 7 years, or I can spend $1,500 every 7 years. But the argument with just gaming, I agree with John. If we're just talking about machines to play video games on, I can't beat a console with a PC. I don't think I can. However, I can explain why I think PC is better in what I do almost every day. So
Yes.
last week I was watching. I think it was last week or the week before. I was watching Dean stream Final Fantasy on my second monitor. I had him up. I was talking in the chat. I was watching him stream. I was watching him fail completely because he's terrible at video games. And
Can confirm.
and while that was going on, I had in a separate isolated window, I was also playing City Skylines. So I was playing City Skylines, jumping between his chat, and while that was going on, I was rendering something that for my job in the background on my PC, and I was also working tickets and doing my work and responding to emails and talking in a separate Slack uh, messaging application simultaneously. All of these things at once, completely seamlessly without any issues whatsoever. That
Yeah.
to me is intangible. That experience is so critical to my life that it is worth that investment. But it's so
Yeah.
subjective. I'm not everybody. That's not everyone's experience.
I would argue
It
that's not most people's experience.
No, I have to agree. Jordan, I do the same thing on my PC. Like legit. I try and entertain the whole household from the comfortability of that chair and desk. And it usually works out because like multitasking on a PC is a thing of beauty. Like there's so many things that I can do at one time to where I can make everyone happy. But go downstairs and it's like, okay, I want to watch Family Matters on Hulu, but the boys want to play Super Smash Brothers or they want to play PlayStation Play Share with my friends' kids across town. That TV's dead. I can't do anything on the TV but one thing. I
hmm
can't multitask on that TV. Yes, multitasking when you do PC gaming is awesome. Like even playing games, like I was playing 2 different games at once while watching Netflix. Like it's just it's something that you can't describe, and like when you get used to being able to do something like that, it's like nigh impossible to give that up.
and and I also want to include in the sticker shock of what a PC costs. Most households already buy PCs every few years, like laptops, or they cycle through them anyway. So
I'd be
you,
careful dropping that most word.
Oh
I
god.
would say most households have at least a computer.
I would be careful dropping that most word unless you're talking about city folk.
Okay,
There's a
all
whole
right,
middle of the country that probably doesn't fall into that most word.
yeah, yeah, but they're also not the majority of the population. So I would think that the most people, and although it has diminished because phones can do so much now, most households are going to purchase a computer probably within a 7 to 10 year time frame. There's a computer in the house. You have two yourself, right? You have two
No, I have.
laptops.
Well, I have my MacBook, but that's dead now, so I only have one.
Okay.
Dude, if you're including my household in this survey, I have 3 laptops and a PC, all used daily.
I mean, I just know that I haven't bought a laptop for myself. Like Lauren has a laptop for school and things like that because I don't want her on her piece on my PC because of cooties. But and like my purchase of a PC has absorbed a potential purchase of a laptop for me. So I do have a cost savings there, although it's not a direct one. I can't show you. I was going to spend 600 on a laptop, but I decided against it. I can't give it a number, but I can say that I would have had to have purchased some type of laptop or some PC within the time that I've had this one,
Yeah.
and it's absorbed it. The
I mean,
monitor was my monitor, which was about $750, totally optional. You do not need this.
Jesus
You do
Christ.
not need this to play video games. I would have a actually much better experience frame rate wise if I went with a nice 2K 27-inch 1440 monitor. I probably would have a better experience, but I wanted to go ultra wide for the first time and try it out, and it has advantages and disadvantages. But this is kind of a not a unique situation, right? So I could have saved money.
so I just want to point out that like this is all fine and good, but it's also mostly irrelevant to the topic at hand. Because like I think everybody can agree that a PC is more versatile than a console. But
Yeah.
like we're talking about things that consoles don't do because they were never meant to do that. They're meant to play
Yes.
games. And like yeah, we can throw in a bunch of totally irrelevant shit to this conversation to make PCs out to be better than consoles, but like again, it's just all irrelevant because that's not the conversation that we're actually having.
Yeah. For
Well,
gaming.
it's hard to just exclude it though because it's no one buys a PC for just gaming and nothing else. Like it's very
Yeah.
rare. Like you have to. There are intangible things that you have to include at a certain point.
Yeah.
Yes
It.
and no. I mean, like I don't think that most people buy a computer just for games. I would be shocked if that percentage is higher than maybe 5%.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think.
it might be higher than that, but not a whole lot. But that kind of comes with the territory. Versus like you buy a console to play games.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, unless we're talking about the PlayStation 2, but that's a long time ago. The point is like if we're talking about intangibles, like my PlayStation 4 can be a Blu-ray player. It can be an all-in-one Netflix machine where I can just have like a piece of shit television and do whatever I want on my PS4, like
You can actually browse the internet on the PS4. Terribly, but you
It's
can do
so
it.
yeah.
awkward.
I mean it's really really bad, but I mean like technically you could do that. I think you can definitely do this on Xbox. I don't know about PS4, but you can plug a keyboard and mouse into it and browse the internet that way. And makes it a much better experience. So like you could do that if that's what you really want to do.
Yeah.
But
I'm th-
again, like while you have an argument that you sort of have to include those intangibles. They're also still mostly irrelevant to the conversation at hand, which is
For
whether or
gaming
not
purposes, yeah.
right, whether or not it's worth it to have a PC for gaming specifically. Like if your
Yeah.
concern is to play video games, is it worth it to invest in a PC? And my argument would be probably not for most
No.
people at least.
It's not even probably, it's just no. Like if you're buying a PC as a pure gaming machine, it's a hell no. I
Uh,
would I would suggest against it. Like I've had so many
mhm.
conversations with people who ask my opinion on the PC builds that they're going to buy, and I'm like, my first question is literally, what are you using it for?
Yep.
And anytime that someone says gaming, I was like, take $1,000 out of that build, and you could have like the best graphics and everything, and you don't need a fancy case or anything like that, and you'll be fine. But if it's a game that's on like PlayStation 4, Switch, or Xbox One, like if it's coming out on those ones, I would suggest to them was like, just get this console, and you can get these games, like a vast library of games for the extra money you would save instead of buying that PC.
Yeah, and the high cost of gaming PCs, you kind of touched on it, John. There's a lot of vanity when it comes to building
Mm-hmm.
machines. So,
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely a slave to it because I wanted a nice I wanted a nice computer this time because my last one was a repurposed like office HP chassis and a like stock motherboard, and it was just like I had to do so much to get that thing to the point to where it was, and it was so many limitations. So when I broke out of that and I'm like, okay, I'm getting a new PC, I went crazy. I got everything RGB. I got all white interior, white matching, like the color of my graphics card matching my exterior of my case because there's a glass window on the case. Like you don't need that, but I wanted it. So
Yeah.
all that is just extra money that does not need to even be a thing. So if people are trying to budget, yeah, you don't have to do it, but that's also kind of the fun of it. Like my PC is a staple, it's a centerpiece in my room. It's beautiful when it's on, when it's functioning and everything. So yeah, I mean, I would say if I give it $1, probably an extra off of gaming components, quote unquote, and vanity things. I spent probably an extra $500 on this build just because of that.
That's
Here's the thing though, like you guys are talking about cutting money off because of this, that, and the other for gaming rig or whatever. But like, if you're building a computer with the intention to play games on it, and I mean like really play games on it, not like, oh, I'm gonna boot up solitaire. Like you're gonna like legitimately play new modern games to come out, regardless of whether or not you're also getting it to do work or do this or do that. The things that make it work well, like unless I want to be clear on this one. Unless you're doing something that's really CPU intensive or GPU intensive, like rendering video or artistic work or whatever the case might be, which is most people are not doing that. But if you're buying a computer for everyday use, work, and you want a game on it, the gaming components that are going to give you that quality gaming experience are probably the most expensive pieces in that computer.
Yeah, my GPU is by far my
mm-hmm.
most expensive thing on my computer.
Yep.
So with that in mind, like you can't, if that's the kind of quality gaming experience you want, you really can't lob that much off of the price tag.
Yes, you are correct.
But yeah, but I'm talking like I have 4 fans in my computer. Normal case fans I can buy them for $20 maybe or even less. These were 80 each because they have because they have RGB, completely customizable, multiple zones for it. My cooler, I could have just bought a normal, or I could have used the stock cooler that came with my CPU and just put it on there. And even the stock cooler that came with my CPU had a little bit of RGB on it, and it's actually a beautiful cooler, but I didn't. I bought a $150 cooler because it was white, it was Corsair, and it looked really good. And it does cool better than a fan does. But not significantly better to where I think it's worth it, but I wanted to buy it. So I definitely like my RAM sticks. I probably spent an extra 50 on them because they have RGB too. So there are definitely places where you can cut to make that, like, to bring that overall price down. And also I wanted to mention that I do agree with the sentiment that if you're buying a PC solely for gaming and you are a gamer that wants to play a vast array of new and upcoming titles as well as classic legacy titles, uh, maybe a PC is not the best thing for you if you're just going for gaming. However, there are gaming experiences that are extremely better on a PC and gaming experiences that you can only have on PC. So, high fidelity VR experiences you can only have on PC. I know there's VR for console, but I'm talking about the really high quality stuff you can only have on PC. Advanced simulators, like advanced simulators coupled with advanced peripherals, like racing ones or flying ones. Any type of armchair commander is generally better with a mouse and keyboard. So your RTS games, Civ games, although they are on console, the experience I've found is better when using just a standard like mouse and keyboard and having a larger monitor in front of you. So I think there are points to be made if someone wants to go and I want to play just Civilization, then I would say build a PC. Even though you can get Civ 6 on Switch, but the experience is really hindered. It's much better on a PC. But if
Is
they
it $1,000 better?
um
Because
uh
that's what I keep coming back to, man.
so it
Like,
wouldn't be 1,000. So if they just wanted to play Civ, at its highest settings, I could build a PC for the same cost as a PS4, and it'll play it at its highest settings. So that's available. If they wanted to play Anno 1800, I don't know, like you brought that up as an example, or something that is just super high quality, like Witcher. They wanted to play Witcher 3 at 4K resolution with the stupid Nvidia hair stuff that they included in there that just
Red Dead would
eats.
be a great example.
Thank you.
Well,
Red Dead is another one with the max draw distance. I want to look in the distance and I want to see that tree at 4K textures. Then yeah, you're going to spend over 1,000 on a PC. But if you're just interested in something specific that only a PC can offer you, and that's a better experience, then you can go for PC. Or if you want to play racing games and you want the pedals and the wheel and the haptic feedback available with both of them, and you want to have the monitor right in front of you, maybe you want the monitor to be bezeled and curved, kind of, and you want to have a really awesome and immersive experience, PC is probably going to be better than a console. Although console will be, of course, cheaper, the PC experience will be far more immersive and satisfying.
I would say that that's pretty subjective. Like, I know people that enjoy playing games like Civ on console just fine, even though I would typically agree with you. But I mean, it's worth noting at least that that's definitely a subjective point of view in the column for PC.
Well, like that would be my recommendation. So
Right.
I would play Civ 6 on Switch as well. I wouldn't sit down and play it for hundreds and hundreds of hours if I because I also have it on PC. So my PC experience is just full stop better in every way playing Civ. If I had no consoles and if I didn't have a PC, didn't have a Switch, I had no means to play it, but I knew I really wanted to play Civ 6 with that awesome new freaking season pass that they just released for some stupid reason, then I would probably argue I would probably try and persuade that person to build a PC before trying to find a good console experience for it.
I think it sounds like to me the kind of consensus that we've come to is if tomorrow PCs magically disappeared and we could only play video games on consoles, or the opposite was true and tomorrow consoles magically disappeared and we could only play on PCs, both of those are not the end of the world. You're still going to have
yeah.
plenty of fun playing games no matter where you
Yeah,
have to, or in the case of reality, want to play them.
I couldn't give up Nintendo. If you said you can still use your computer for work-related things and for everything but gaming. Like if you came to me and said, I'm going to take your GPU out and you're only going to have the onboard display drivers and display components attached to the motherboard, and it's either that or you get your consoles, then I would say take the damn GPU, because I can't give up Nintendo. Nintendo is too important to me that I would have to forego my entire Steam library, the thousands of hours spent on PC games and everything, because Nintendo is that important. And that's kind of what I found for a lot of PC players. So I talking to other PC players and just friends of mine that work in the same field, and John knows this. In our field of IT, everyone's a freaking PC player almost. So it's so
Yeah.
ubiquitous, and they all have Switches too. Like I've never met anyone that was a PC player that's just no dirty pedestrian consoles in my house. Like they usually have at least a Switch, or
They
some
like to act like
Nintendo
they don't,
console.
though.
Well,
Yeah, they really do.
I mean, if you think that the slash PC master PCMR master race or whatever it is, I think it's slash PCMR on Reddit. If you want to use that shit throwing circle jerk of a subreddit as an example of how PC players are, you're starting at a wrong point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same thing as if you're starting at like Xbox Live Teenagers as your starting point for like gamers, so like you've already gone wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I don't know, man. Like Nintendo, I think is just special to most gamers. I think the only people that are immune to this are like younger gamers who either that grew up in like Xbox generation or later. Like if you started playing games after Xbox came out, you might have a different opinion on that, but I think anybody who started playing before that has some love for Nintendo somewhere in their heart.
I
Yeah.
I think that they do. My brother, my sister-in-law's niece, or no, nephew. My sister-in-law's nephew.
My sister-in-law's baby cousin Tracy.
He is 8 or 9, and I think he has like an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a Switch. And this boy only plays Mario games. I have never seen, like, he's like the messiah for Nintendo. He has Nintendo swag. He carries a Switch everywhere. He only plays Mario games. He is all over Mario Maker. You know, he's the kind of kid that spends the 1,000 hours trying to master like the hardest level that people create on Mario Maker. Like they exist. Like these unicorns are still out there, and even in that next generation, you still find examples of kids just harboring a love of Nintendo organically without their parents trying to force it down their throats. Like I know I will. But but I think it's here to stay. I think console, and I just never think Nintendo. If someone says, "Oh, console or PC," it's like, "Oh, I think I'll pick a PC over PlayStation 4 and Xbox." Like, "Oh, well, what about Nintendo?" And I'm like, "How dare you?" Like it's always a third thing to me. It's always outside of whatever the current struggle is. They're constant.
Yeah, they certainly march to the beat of their own drum.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've come to a good consensus here, but did you guys have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No, I've said all I needed to say about Lex Luthor, the Joker, and the CW universe. So yeah, I'm good.
Just
Every day with this.
if you're playing games, you're doing the right thing. That's what it boils down to.
You're
That's
a good
basically it.
person.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I can probably categorically say that that's probably not true, but
yeah. How about that? Yeah, everyone that plays video games is great. They're perfect. No, I mean, whatever.
I'm not. No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's obviously sarcasm. But however anyone wants to play, it's not a big deal. I think that people's allegiance and their preferences, not only to gaming but everything in their life, comes so strongly from their environment. I know that my Nintendo, like starting with Sega, that my environment reinforced the love of that. Then moving to my love of N64 and GameCube, once again, my environment reinforced that because my friend got the N64 first, and that directly influenced my decision whether to buy a N64 or a PlayStation 1, just because they had an N64 and I wanted to play games with them. Same thing happened to GameCube, and I don't know, it's just been compounding on itself. It just, you adapt to what's around you and whatever you think is going to be the best for you, whatever's funnest.
Couldn't agree more. Well, until next week, you can find me online at EndlessCola wherever you happen to be. These two guys don't want anything to do with you, and so we will catch you on the next episode. Catch you guys then.